This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin Freakin.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live. It's a freaking Tuesday and it is one freaking week away from election 2024. Welcome. Good evening. I don't even remember how I do this anymore. It seems like it's been forever. It hasn't even been that long. It's just been a couple of days. What do I usually say after that? I like how Maynard popped up on the table, like right as the music was. Buddy, I can't have you like up here shaking everything. He's got his ass right in my face. This is not gonna work. This is not a good setup, buddy. One freaking week away from the election. We got a lot of news to talk about tonight. Tonight is the Indiana Senate debate. That's what we're gonna be covering in about 10 minutes. Let me get you a meme going. I've missed out on a lot of things in the last few days. We got everybody setting drop boxes on fire. We got assaults on campaign headquarters. It's definitely a week out from an election, a very contentious election indeed. I kind of like that the cats will be more involved in the show, I guess. They're going to be more on display. I got to work on that bright light over there. I can't even use my Troll Patrol background because it's too bright. Because I can't figure out how to make the TV less bright. You'd think I would be some kind of, broadcast professional, audio-visual technician. I think you'd be able to figure out how to make the TV less bright. Unfortunately for me, it is not an obvious setting. If there is a setting, I don't think there is. Here is your meme of the day. Tony Hinch, which, by the way, I did not know who this dude was when I saw the video of this. Oh, the Kill Tony dude. If they'd referred to him as that, I would have known. But I had no Tony Hinchcliffe. The fuck kind of name is that? Headlining at the Comedy Mothership. Michael, I looked it up and the setting's not there. That's my point. I looked it up and it's not there. It's not where it should be. And the other issue that I might have with that is that I don't have the remote. I have the remote that came with this TV that's very fancy. It's got all kinds of, you can even talk to it. It does all kinds of shit. I have that remote, but the batteries are dead in it. The remote that I have is for my old LG TV, and it works, but it really only turns the power on and off and switches the input. You can't really do all the other fancy things you can do with that other. So maybe if I had the fancy remote, I might be able to figure it out. So that should probably be on me to get batteries for it. Michael, Warlord, good evening. What is up with my numbers? Did I do something on Thursday to piss everybody off? I like the last show we did on. Hello, Sparkles. No, it was Thursday was the last show I did. Numbers have been up for the last couple of months. Thursday was like the worst live stream I'd ever done. On YouTube. It wasn't on Twitch. Twitch numbers were usual. I don't know. YouTube people left me. I don't have any YouTube fans anymore. Is that what's going on? Now I feel bad. I feel lazy because I sent that meme to Sparkles earlier. She doesn't get a fresh meme of the day. She's already seen this one. But it felt relevant to use it on the stream. Because, we're probably going to be talking about Kill Tony here in just a little bit. I've never found the guy funny, and he definitely wasn't funny at Madison Square Garden. And also, he sounds like a little bitch. Is that okay with me to say? He sounds like a little bit like he got this voice and talking like this. He doesn't sound like a real man. So I don't understand. I don't understand. Anyway, we got the Indiana Senate debate coming up at the top of the hour. Let me tell you what's going on here. The Republican has passed. The Republican will not be there tonight. We are going to see the Republican, by the way, favored to win up in all the polls. Almost certainly going to be the next senator from Indiana, which is probably why he didn't debate. He backed out. He was a big puss. Valerie McRae, the Democrat, is going to be debating Andrew Horning, who I labeled as an independent, but more importantly, is a libertarian. So it's going to be Democrat versus Libertarian tonight in Indiana, and I think that makes it... I am kind of in... I have triple A's, I don't have double A. And it takes one double A. The old remote takes two triple A. Go figure. He keeps doing that. And because there's a window right there. He keeps jumping down while I'm asleep. And it's very scary. It's a very loud noise when he hops on that table from the window. Also, Socks has been over here thinking about hopping up into the window. Torchy, good evening. I'm sorry. I apologized. I said I would be back on Sunday night with a normal Troll Patrol. That didn't happen. New place right here. New setup. And there's a cat. Hey, Smokey, what's going on, buddy? I had that pink light down in the floor last night, but it was too bright. But now it's behind the TV. I don't think it's bright enough. We're still working everything out. Of course, we did Gore last night. I really enjoyed that. And what was it? Necro Bestiality Anal Day? That was the one that really got me. It's Necro Bestiality Anal Day. It was. I have only seen a few clips of it. We might delve into it here in a little bit. We've got the Indiana Senate debate at the top of the hour. Apparently, we got a whole other debate coming on at 8 o'clock if you guys want to watch it. It seems that one former representative, George Santos, will be on the Young Turks to debate Cenk Uygur at 8 o'clock. So if you guys want to check that out, I've got to admit, I'm morbidly curious myself. Curiouser and curiouser if I might say so. Anyway, we're going to watch a Democrat debate a Libertarian. Well, if you're going to twerk, be sure to wash your ass.
Life is too short to walk this earth for a crusty asshole. Wash your ass.
I love the guy. I'd date George Santos. Well, nobody gonna date George Santos because he gonna be in prison soon.
The page.
This is live. Oh, this is the Ellipse rally. I thought this was earlier today.
We deserve a leader who will bring people together and fight for the middle class. Not someone who tries to divide us. And that's why Bob and I are both proudly voting for Kamala Harris.
I already voted for her.
Never in a million years did I think that I would
Lenny, good evening.
like this, supporting a Democrat for president.
How you feel? Are you nervous? You've got like a week until your big trip.
But enough is...
And it's time for a change. A week until Lenny's big trip and a week until we make a trip back in time. So far, so good on the internet, though. It's Spectrum. And I've not had good luck with Spectrum. So far, so good. But it's only been one night.
U.S. Senate debate, sponsored by the Indiana Debate Commission.
Here we go.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2024 Senate debate organized by the independent, nonpartisan Indiana Debate Commission.
Torchy, I voted before I left Tennessee, and it was jam-packed
And
in a red state.
Two of the candidates on the ballot this fall. My name is Laura Merrifield Wilson, and I'm your debate moderator for this evening. I'm an associate professor of political science at the University of Indianapolis, and
He's got cottonmouth, Torchy. You should know all about that.
now we'll meet the candidates. Their lectern positions and question order were chosen by a drawing. The first candidate is Democrat Valerie McCrae. The second candidate is Libertarian Andrew Horning. Republican Jim Banks was invited to join us this evening, but declined the invitation to participate in tonight's event.
Jim Banks almost certainly going to win that Senate seat.
Has selected tonight's questions from ideas submitted from Hoosiers all across the state. The topics
But I think it's going to be more fun that we're going to have the Democrat against the Libertarian.
for our debate are simple. Candidates will have 1 minute to make an opening statement, then I'll begin the questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Candidates may request an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal as needed by raising their hands. In the interest of time, we ask that
Libertarians all look alike.
prolonged back and forth debate on a single topic so we can cover as many voter questions as possible. As the moderator, I have the discretion to ask a follow-up question if needed to clarify a
See,
candidate.
their background looks good.
begin.
Their monitors aren't too bright.
We'll hear first from Ms. McCrae. Ms. McCrae, you have 1 minute to make an opening statement.
Well, thank you for having me. I welcome this opportunity to let people know about Valerie McCrae. I'm Dr. Valerie McCrae, and I was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, as were my parents who worked in the factories. And I was raised
Thank you,
in the
Torchy.
public school system. But I
So far, so good.
degrees from University of Michigan, my bachelor's, master's, and my PhD. With my son in tow, a little boy in tow, we managed to get those degrees done. That young man happens to be a commissioned officer in the Navy.
That
and
young
he's
man was
also
me.
Now a chaplain candidate that I'm very proud of. I've never taken the path of least resistance. My career has been working in prisons, working with men and women, young men and women who are victims of violence or sex trafficking. And I've also worked with the military doing PTSD and brain trauma evaluations. I look forward to being the next senator for
Thank
Indiana, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Next,
Everyone seems nervous. The moderator's nervous.
It was fast, doesn't
It
it?
does.
The Democrat was nervous.
Anyway, we're going to be debating a lot of issues, no doubt, tonight that we've been told are individual issues, but I'm going to suggest that they all have the same problem. Our government is, unfortunately, corrupt. Truman warned us about it. Eisenhower warned us about it. JFK warned us about it. And, in fact, our founders warned us about the inherently divisive nature of parties, and especially against having only two. So we are in an incredibly divided, angry time with a lot of problems caused by a very corrupt system owned by plutocrats that don't really care about you. So I'd like to talk about me maybe a little bit later, but I think we need to get to the problems and the solutions very quickly, because I'm going to suggest that all of the problems are because of too much government, and we need to have a whole lot less. Thanks.
thank you, candidates.
His beard is nice.
First question. Our first question tackles
And I'm
an
not
issue
talking about his wife. Oh.
including here in Indiana, say is very important to them as they head to the polls. The issue of
So
inflation.
who wants to bet that his wife's like Taiwanese or something?
A libertarian from Greenfield who says the Inflation Reduction Act was supposed to help reduce inflation. However, Larry says it is not working. If elected, what would you do to fight inflation? Our question to the candidates is:
Am I wrong? Inflation is down right now.
Act working, and what other states steps would you take to fight inflation? Ms. McCrae, you have the opportunity to go first.
Well, first, I'd like to challenge the writer because inflation has gone down. And keep in mind that the Biden administration did a very good job of keeping inflation in check after what we went through with COVID. Here, inflation has went down 9.2 from 9.2 to 2%. Because we
it's like 2.7 or something.
We've invested in a lot of jobs here in Indiana, but the main thing is that inflation is less here than around the globe, and we've managed to do that. But keep in mind that most of what we see, the kitchen table issues, are mostly about price gouging. We have too few companies that are charging more than what they need to charge for products at this point, at a time when they are making record profits. It's price gouging that's the issue.
Thank you. Mr. Horning?
Milton Friedman actually said that...
Mr. Horny?
Kind of bring it down to inflation being too much money chasing too few goods. Our Fed, the Federal Reserve System, is inherently inflationary, and it has been since 1913. If you look at the value of the dollar, the purchasing value has actually gone down 95% since that time. And so really the issue of inflation is one baked into the whole Federal Reserve System, and I would oppose we end that as soon as we can. And in fact, some people have suggested if we did that, we could get rid of income tax and replace it with nothing. We'd all have a lot more money in our pockets, and we would all be able to save more. But this is also a problem that the plutocrats that are running this whole system are benefiting from it. We don't have enough time to describe how that actually works, but I think everybody can see it. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and it's by design. That's just how the Fed works, and we need to end it.
Donald Trump has proposed an additional 60% tariff on Chinese goods and a 10% tariff on all other imported goods, while evoking the possibility of raising the latter, universal tariffs, to 20%. Trump argues that taxing foreign imports would reduce the trade deficit, promote American-made products, and protect American jobs, while Kamala Harris has attacked Trump's plan as a national sales tax that could send inflation soaring and cost the average American family thousands of dollars each year. RJ, a Democrat from Noblesville, wants to know your position on tariffs and whether you would support or oppose an implementation of a 20% tariff on imported goods. Mr. Horning, it's your turn to go first.
I'm not opposed to tariffs per se as a means of taxation, but we should understand that all taxation is really a symptom of spending. And our government is spending way too much, and it's too much in debt. And so if you're looking at the facts, like right now, the number 3 expense in the federal budget is not Social Security or Medicare. That's number 1 and 2. It's the interest on our national debt. So the interest on our national debt is actually a bigger budget item than national defense. So in so much as we're spending so much on everybody else's country and on so much that doesn't really have anything to do with us. And of course, wars, the military-industrial complex Eisenhower warned us about, is a big drain on the economy. So, if we're talking about any sort of taxation, we really should first address the size and cost of our government, and it is too big. After that, the form of taxation becomes a lot less important.
Thank you. Ms. McCrae?
Well, there has not been any economist that of any stature whatsoever that would support that the tariffs were necessary, and have not actually stated that it would throw us into worse conditions because of those costs were going to be passed on to the consumer, which is going to cause other problems.
Did you send me money for batteries, Michael?
It's not work. It's going to cause people to have to pay more money for every product and good, and that is not what we need in America.
I've got money for batteries.
Turn to the physical environment.
Thank you, though.
Independent from Granger says, with droughts, wildfires, heat waves, and hurricanes destroying people and ecosystems, I want to know what the candidates will do to address threats related to climate change. He adds, Indiana has long been dependent on fossil fuels for energy, while other states are more aggressively pursuing energy alternatives. The question is this: what do you see as the proper balance between fossil fuels and clean energy alternatives, and what, if anything, can a U.S. Senator do to help states achieve this balance? Ms. McCrae?
There's a notification.
Our environment, especially in Indiana, of course, is under attack. The problem with Indiana, we stayed reliant on coal for way too long.
Thank you, Michael.
Catching up to do. Our electrical grid is an issue, so we have to make sure that we come up to speed. We also need transition fuel, which would be your national.
I'm going to feel bad if I don't buy batteries
We
soon.
have to rely on national gas to transition us to other forms of energy. We have wind, we have solar energy that is up and coming, that has its issues as well. We also have to reconsider nuclear energy as well, and also sort this out as far as making sure that it becomes safe, that everything is safe. There's all types of alternatives, including biofuels, and I think that as we go forward, we put our research and development into those, we can close that loop and have a good ecosystem here in Indiana and take care of our environment at the same time.
Thank you. Mr. Horning?
Well, I agree that new technology, nuclear, is great stuff. But I guess we really have to take a look at the money. If you follow the money that's been involved in our environmental and green policies so far, you'll see, that like with Solyndra and other ghastly mistakes, a lot of
Solyndra
making money off of us when we've been compromising our energy situation all along. And look at what's happened to Germany when they left nuclear. So I'm all for nuclear, but I wish we had more time than just a minute to discuss the entire environmental solution, because we've been bad stewards of our economy and as well as our environment, and we need to do better in all of those cases. But you can't really look at anything related to politics without looking at the people behind it. And unfortunately, we've got
He said Solyndra.
are making the calls right now.
I haven't heard that in 10 years.
Access and affordability is an issue many people care about, both from a
That's from the early days of the Obama administration.
perspective. More than 63 million American seniors are enrolled in Medicare. Colette, a Republican from Columbia City, asks, what reforms would you put into place concerning the Medicare program to cut costs and make sure that it runs efficiently? Mr. Horning?
Actually, the only solution that's actually been run through our own budget offices is the Cato plan. The 6.2
The Cato plan
allows us to phase out the incredible problem that we have with Social Security and Medicare, and that they depend upon a rising population, which we do not have. We're actually losing population, and we need to have more young taxpayers to keep this going, and it's not happening. So really, we need to change the funding recipe for Social Security and Medicare.
We're not breeding enough, is what he says.
So far have been the ones that have been pushing solutions that don't involve raising the age of retirement and cutting benefits. And with the inflation rate what it is right now, and with more coming very soon, I think you're going to see that Social Security and Medicare are in big danger if we don't do something very fast.
Ms. McCrae?
There's a way to not only support
Lift the cap.
Medicaid and make it even Medicare and Social Security and make it better. We can do so if we just make sure that our taxes are fair, make sure that our Social Security taxes are in line with what people make. If we concentrate on fairness and make sure that everyone's paying their fair share,
Lift the cap.
we can fix Social Security and Medicare.
I'd like to ask a 15-second follow-up for both candidates. Could you clarify how we'd be able to fully fund these programs?
Lift the cap.
First.
Well, I mean, no matter what we do, we have to cut spending in other regards. We're spending money on all kinds of stuff that we should not. And so our priorities have been wrong, and we need to reprioritize. But the 6.2 plan actually talks about phasing out the Social Security system for young people, allowing them to invest in private.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. McCrae?
Right now we have a cap at $165,000, something like that, as far as what they pay into Social Security. If that goes up, as their income goes up, if it stays fair, we can solve a lot of the gaps, the issues with Social Security and Medicare. Just take off the cap.
Thank you. Thank you. Why did it take so long to say that simple phrase?
Fort Wayne.
Gratilla, welcome in.
What will you do at a national level to
Why was that so hard?
right to medical privacy stays between themselves and their doctors? And what will you do to ensure that people are not going into debt because of healthcare bills? Ms. McCrae?
You know, we are all one diagnosis away from being broke because of our Medicare system. One of the things
Well, not our Medicare
is to
system.
make sure that we are moving towards a system. I'm personally for Medicare for all. But
Fucking A, I love this woman.
Where we take care of the things that we can take care of. Right now, the Biden administration, for example, has cut back.
Only one of two candidates to say the words Medicare for all.
Dealt with that donut hole, which meant that two people they have a cap of $2,000 that they have to pay for medical insurance, medical prescriptions. These are things we're moving forward. We will protect ACA, the Affordable Care Act, but I would love to see us move forward to a healthcare system, single-payer healthcare system, and I plan to support that when I get to Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Mr. Horning?
The facts are in about socialized healthcare, and it doesn't work. I've been in
bullshit
healthcare until last year, my whole adult life. It worked in various aspects of it, and I've seen and fought against all of the effects that raise costs and reduce quality. And you look at how
it's capitalism.
Just recent years, how much money has been coming out of big pharma into political campaigns, and it's shocking how corrupt it's all become. So it's unfortunate that I have to say this, but the best thing politicians could do in our healthcare system is let doctors do it and get politicians out of the operating room and out of healthcare expenses entirely.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to add to that.
Yes, I'll allow you 30 seconds for rebuttal. Ms. McCrae?
Yes, it is important that we keep our privacy private. I mean, HIPAA violations and those sort of things, they shouldn't, legislation should not be in the doctor's room. I agree with that. But I don't agree with the fact that a single-payer system would be less expensive. It would be better for the American people. And there are systems all over the globe that do work, and we can get there. We've seen it happen. Germany has it. A lot of countries have universal health care. We can do it here in the United States.
Yes, a rebuttal, Mr. Horning.
Yeah, the MAID program in Canada is a good example of how this can end, where they run out of money very quickly. You can have socialized systems that work for maybe 70 years, but that's only happened rarely. And just recently in Canada,
what the fuck is he talking about?
This vaunted system that people were touting is so good is being very destructive and
way better than the American system.
Using what's called medical tourism now to fix problems that could be done at home if only we would allow the free market to work.
Thank you, candidates. Many voters are concerned.
You want to talk about medical tourism? It's all the Americans going to Canada and Mexico. This dipshit.
20 years and struggle to find a solution. Should we cut benefits for people who've paid into the system their whole lives? Raise the Social Security tax? Get rid of the
wait a minute, didn't we already do this question?
Taxed or something else entirely? What is your solution? Mr. Horning, you'll go first.
Well, you can look up the 6.2 plan, but more broadly, other than just the specifics of that plan, we need to reprioritize what we're using government for. The fact that we are funding every other country on the planet, we're using our armies and our dollar to force other countries to do what we want when we're not taking care of our own people here at home. That's ridiculous. And you could follow the money and see why that
I agree.
I suggest we stop that and start looking seriously at what we have been doing, what we consider important. If healthcare is important, we can reprioritize that over Ukraine, over Israel, over every other country on the planet, and maybe bring some of our troops back home.
Thank you. Ms. McCrae?
I think I've talked about this previously. If we take off the cap, the $165,000 cap, and make sure that people pay as they go forward, we can resolve a lot of the issues with our Social Security system.
Voters submitted several questions about immigration, reflecting a wide range of viewpoints. Brenda, an independent from Beech Grove, says, I'm a first-generation Latina U.S. citizen. I've worked very hard to get to the point where I am right now. It was over 17 years ago that I came to the United States. If elected, what would you do to protect immigrants who are here seeking safety and economic opportunities? Ms. McCrae, you'll go first.
The first thing I would do, the one thing I would not do is make immigration a political pawn and keep the immigrants in this political quandary of fear and worrying about being deported and all that sort of thing.
Yes, ma'am.
About it is that we have grown. Our economic structure has grown because of the immigrants, because of people that are moving here. I think that we have to support people, make sure that it's safe, make sure that we have fair and safe immigration laws. The Biden administration, they put together a bipartisan bill and they backed off of it because Trump simply wanted to make it a campaign issue. It was working. Whatever they put together was going to work. Everyone was for it, and Trump stopped that bill from being passed, and that's a shame because there are people that are waiting to be brought into the fold that are waiting to make sure that their lives are safe. Thank you.
Mr. Horning.
Well, we have to understand that we've had immigration problems since the start of our nation, and some of it's been great in the long term, but it's always been problematic in the short term. And one of the problems we've had recently is that because we've been bombing half the planet, we've made refugees out of half the planet. We've got a lot of people here that are angry, and we're paying to bring them in. So this is not the usual immigration scenario where people were merely coming here for a better life. You know, we need more people coming here for a better life because, as I already mentioned, we're losing our native population, and you know, people are not having babies like they used to. And if we want to keep Medicare and Medicaid going at, you know, and Social Security going at all, we're going to have to do something about that. So I'm not anti-immigrant at all. I'm against what we have done to make legal immigration so expensive and difficult, and make it so, you know, obviously important for people to get here on our dime because we've blown up their country.
That might be the best answer on immigration we've heard.
Comes from Crystal from Evansville.
There's a low bar, admittedly.
Documented immigrants breaking the law and receiving taxpayer-funded services. She says, how has the influx of illegal immigrants affected your community? And when did the citizens of Indiana choose to allow people to break our laws and receive taxpayer dollars?
That's what's called a loaded question fallacy.
Candidates, how do you respond to citizens like Crystal who raise these concerns?
I call Crystal a dumb fuck.
I'm glad this question was broken up into two, because really states have a lot more power over immigration than we've been told. The only federal authority really is to, you know, standardize naturalization, and they've done that. We just don't follow any of those rules. And so what, you know, every state has control of its borders. In fact, Indiana's constitution specifies that it has all the powers of the sovereign state. So, you know, the fact that we have been allowing this from the state level is constitutional ignorance. The fact that we have you know, the invasion that some people call it across the southern borders is because they haven't read their own constitutions. So we have a lot more power at the state level than we've been led to believe, and it's a shame that we're not using that power. And the fact that, you know, we have so many criminals here that we've let go in a catch and release program, that's our fault as well. We should expect everybody obeys the law, and we should expect that, you know, we shouldn't be giving special deals for special people, especially criminals.
Ms. McCrae.
When we keep having this conversation as if immigrants are criminals, we are vilifying people that are just trying to find a better life. And that's not fair. People want to stay in the countries they belong to, that they grew up in. But unfortunately, the circumstances where they live makes it emergent that they come to somewhere else to be safe. I understand that. That's where we are a country of immigrants. And to now sort of come in and shut the door behind you, that is not fair. It doesn't make sense. The fact
pull the ladder up
is people come here to get a better life. We can help. There is not a zero-sum game here. Just because immigrants may get a little help here doesn't mean that their money's coming somewhere else. And a lot of this is just pure myth anyway. They are not getting free homes, free this and free that. That's just not true. It's just made to pit people against each other.
While states are primarily responsible for education policy, many voters wanted to know what Congress can do to strengthen our education system. Former teacher Denise from Wingate asks, as a member of Congress, how could you help ensure that all children receive the excellent education they deserve? Ms. McCrae.
Well, for one, the best thing that's ever happened to the United States is to provide free public education. It's the hallmark of the United States. We have to continue to invest in our students, continue to invest in our schools. We need to stop the voucher systems that's draining public school systems, because public money needs to go for public schools. We need to make sure we invest in our teachers, support our teachers, and actually expand our public school systems. What's happening here in Indiana, there's a decrease in expectations, a decrease in funding for public schools at a time time when we need to be funding them even more. And we also need to have pre-K and childcare as well, because the outcomes for kids that have pre-K is very, very positive.
Thank you. Mr. Horning.
Since 1980, the Republicans have been saying they're going to get rid of the Federal Department of Education, and they've not done it, even though you can see how it's been catastrophic for both costs and quality of our public schools. So first of all, from a federal level, it's simple. I would get rid of the Department of Education. Just talking about the states and the free, I mean, since we brought up state, that's where the free education is actually supposed to come from, the state constitution. We've tied that to property tax, unfortunately, which means that poor people get poor schools, rich people get rich schools, and that's not how the Constitution is laid out in Indiana. So we're not doing the Constitution either from the federal perspective or the state perspective. And I would suggest that we look at the Constitutions, read the darn things. They're much shorter than a romance novel, and we can get better education for everybody at a much lower cost.
Thank you. Well, the state of the U.S. economy and other domestic issues are generally front of mind for most Americans, including Hoosiers. Many voters have expressed concerns about foreign conflicts, relations, and policy this year. The U.S. Senate has a significant influence over foreign policy, including the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations, declare war, regulate armed forces, and approve treaties and diplomatic appointments. Members of the Senate also have the power to appropriate and allocate military funding and engage in foreign policy oversight. We turn now to questions about U.S. foreign policy, starting with the U.S. policy towards Ukraine.
Well, luckily, it looks like that rally has really backfired on him.
In military equipment and aid to Ukraine. If elected to Congress, would you vote to continue or cease this financial support? Mr. Horning, you go first.
Absolutely cease.
But I'll also say it's kind of giving me
Of how we've taken
the Access Hollywood tape from 2016 vibes.
of NATO to the fact
Everybody thought that was the end of the campaign, too.
the negotiated collapse of the Soviet Union in 1990. So when talking with Brezhnev and all of the following presidents, we promised them things that we did to them when we did.
And then he brought like Juanita Broderick to the debate.
And we've pushed NATO onto their doorstep. We took down a government, and actually even starting in New Yugoslavia. We have done nothing but cause problems everywhere we've looked since we said that Spain sunk the Maine, and they didn't do that either. So if you're looking to see what we should do, it's peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none.
Thank you. Ms. McCrae.
I'm all for supporting Ukraine and whatever it takes to push back Russia's encroachment into Ukraine. That's what we have to do, because there is an effect of a tumbling effect, a domino effect, if we don't keep Russia at bay in the Ukraine.
Exactly, Michael.
For supporting continued support of Ukraine.
And I hope she asked about the age of consent.
30 seconds for rebuttal.
Yeah, as far as the domino effect, we have forced Russia and China to be friends again, when that was always, post-war, one of our biggest fears. So the BRICS alliance has formed precisely because we've been using our dollar and our armies to fight everybody on the planet. We've got our armies in half the nations of the world pointed at the other half, and we're using sanctions and every other money means to destroy lives the planet over. That's one of the problems with immigration too.
We turn next to the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. A majority of Americans say that they support Israel's right to defend itself. While
Who's going to take bets that the Libertarian has a better view on this than the Democrat?
Suffering taking place in Gaza. What steps should the U.S. do to take in resolving this conflict?
He might even mention the Palestinian people.
Ms. McCrae.
Well, first of all, as a psychologist that does PTSD evaluations, there are going to be no winners in this war. I'm all for ceasefire, making sure that the killing stops on both sides. The situation in Gaza, the situation in Palestine, Israel, it has to stop. We need to start the healing process. That's the bottom line.
But what's your position?
Be resolved, but the sooner we stop fighting, the sooner they stop bombing, the sooner we get to just a safe zone, the sooner we can start the healing process.
This is for Senate.
It'll take a while, but I know for a fact that people will, that the Israeli soldiers and the Palestinians will suffer for generations to come, whether it's suicides or drug addictions or whatever.
And neither one of these people will be the senator.
Either side, there are no winners in this, so let's stop and let's start the healing process.
The Republican declined to debate.
We've been funding and arming and training both
So we get the Democrat and the Libertarian
on the planet for a long time. If people were to look back and see how Hamas started as a, was actually encouraged by Western powers and especially Israel to fight the PLO. And our interference over there has done nothing but cause trouble. So my answer is roughly the same, but I've got to remind everybody that we are broke. The $35 trillion that people talk about as their statutory debt does not include the bond debt, the unfunded liabilities of Social Security and Medicare. If we keep doing what we're doing, where half the discretionary spending of Congress is on war, we're sunk. And I don't think people have any idea how much worse the inflation can get now that the Fed has decided to start just printing more dollars to devalue our debt.
Our next question involves the popular social media platform TikTok. Due to the U.S. government's fear that the TikTok's Chinese ownership poses a major risk to national security, TikTok could face a...
Would have been funnier if they just went into like a TikTok dance.
25 if ByteDance doesn't sell its U.S. operations. With millions of users hooked on TikTok's short-form videos, this TikTok ban could be a game changer for digital privacy, social media, and even global tech relations. What is your position on the proposed TikTok ban?
I feel like it's anti-American.
Mr. Horning?
Well, this is well, all of these things are related. If you look to see what actually prompted all the calls for doing something with TikTok, it was because a lot of people were posting anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian. What do they call these TikTok thingies? Videos, whatever. So I'm an old guy. You have to excuse me on that.
TikToks.
The fact that we are doing everything we can to lock down communication to make it possible, more difficult for people to communicate freely, and finding more ways to control every form of media. That's scary stuff. This isn't just First Amendment. This is taking over the corporations and the very people that want to have free speech. And another example of this is the movement against Elon Musk and X. All of this is dangerous, and while I am no fan of what the CCP in China is all about, we have to be serious that this is not why we were going after TikTok.
Ms. McCrae?
I actually enjoy TikTok.
Good answer.
I'm on TikTok a lot, more than I probably should be. But I've also learned a lot of history. I've learned a lot of things that were hidden in America's history. I don't want that shut down. But there are some issues.
He was and then he wasn't, Torshi.
And there's information being sold. But I think that goes for a lot of the different social media platforms as well. I think we need to get a handle on that particular subject anyway, how our information is being sold around the world. And that's a bigger issue that we need to get to. But as far as TikTok, I think people enjoy it. I don't see a reason why we should stop it. It can be a great learning tool, but we have to use it effectively.
Both of them gave great answers and focused on different issues.
Members of Congress are concerned about
excellent
competition with China. Senator Todd Young co-sponsored the Chips and Science Act to bolster the number of semiconductor chips manufactured in the United States. He argued,
I hate him just because his name is Todd.
Like China, we must invest in generation technology like synthetic biology, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. The Chips and Science Act makes significant investments in these technologies with the goal of spurring American innovation, growing the economy, and bolstering national security. Anne, a politically unaffiliated engineer from Indianapolis, wants to know whether you would...
I bet I could get one up there.
And what additional steps you would take to ensure the growth and competitiveness of U.S. technology industries, including those here in Indiana. Ms. McCrae?
We are having
several
$1 billion being thrown into a CHIPS Act and CHIPS plant here in Indiana. So I'm really excited about that because we're bringing jobs and money to Indiana, and just building the facilities they're using union labor. So this is a good thing, and I'm proud of Todd Young on the other side. That's a Republican that actually is backing the bill. My other opponent, however, has tried to block these bills that were bringing information, bringing money, bringing technology to Indiana. I'm glad it's still a go, and I'm glad that we're putting our efforts into this, and hopefully we can support this and make sure that Indiana grows with the global economy.
Mr. Horning?
Politicians have a phenomenally bad record of picking winners and losers, and it generally falls along the lines of friends and foes. And if we were to look to see who actually runs our government and follow campaign donations, you'll see why they do what they do, and it has nothing to do with free trade or improving the lives of American citizens. You know, what we really should be looking at is why is it that so many corporations have left the United States to find cheaper source materials, cheaper everything else everywhere else. And the theory of regulation here is great, but the fact is regulators and the regulated become the same people. They start forming consortiums, they start, you know, grouping together, and what we've seen, and what I hope what I would like to eliminate is the buddy-buddy system where you have large corporations centralizing decision-making and centralizing lawmaking and centralizing treaties, such that that's what's made the United States uncompetitive. That's the only thing. If we were to do what our founders had proposed, do the Constitution as...
No, his answer is more capitalism.
The layers of... Oh, sorry, I read
Thank you.
Holiday, anonymously. Good evening. Alien.
Issues that seemingly divide.
This is the Indiana Senate debate. The Republican declined to debate. They're probably going to win the seat.
On social issues
this is the Democrat versus the Libertarian.
We turn first to the question of abortion. Some politicians have expressed a desire to ban some forms of contraceptives, including Plan B and IUDs. Others have argued that the government should ban IFB treatments, which include and involve the creation and destruction of human embryos. What is your position on these questions? And should decisions be made by Congress, or should these decisions be left to the states? Mr. Horning?
Well, they should absolutely be left to the states. That's the only constitutional answer. And in fact, even if you're looking at something like murder, that's a state-level issue. It's not a federal issue. We've made way too many things federal, and we've made too few things state. We're supposed to have a decentralized government with more local decision-making. So just from a legal standpoint, and since I'm running for U.S. Senate, I'd say it's none of the federal government's business what we do with any of that stuff at the state level. States have to make those decisions for themselves.
Ms. McCrae.
Unfortunately, here I'm totally for the individual. I trust women to make their own decisions about abortion, about their health care. I trust the doctors to be able to make decisions with those families. States do not need to be in the exam room. That's the bottom line. The fact of the matter is that we need this to be codified into our Constitution, the right to make your own decision. We can't have it state by state. It is a right to make decisions about our own body. I trust women to do that.
Yes, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Yeah, the idea of allowing individual, I'm all for that. I want individual rights in every kind of respect.
Are you, though?
I also understand that the more you centralize things, the more trouble you get when you get the wrong guy in power. So while we like to think that, you know, we can have more control over the UN than we've got over...
So that's why you should want a constitutional amendment, you dipshit.
...control over D.C. than we do over our own states. That is not the case, and that has never been the case, and it's exceptionally dangerous how we're centralizing more and more power into the UN, for example.
Thank you, Mr. Horning.
Yeah.
Several Hoosiers had questions about gun violence, gun right ownership, and responsible gun ownership in general. Are there any federal gun laws you would like to change, to add, or repeal? Ms. McCrae?
I think there's no place in American society for assault rifles. I am for the Second Amendment. I'm for people owning guns. That's fine with me. But there's no place in American society where the regular citizen needs an assault rifle. Children are being killed, and that makes no sense. People are dying in droves. These mass murders need to stop. No other country has to deal with this craziness. It's just the United States because of this.
No way to prevent this, says the only country where it regularly happens.
We have to have sensible laws moving forward.
Mr. Horning.
I think we're really asking the wrong question here. If we're talking about reducing violence, we really should be looking at the drugs we prescribe to kids in schools. SSRIs, for example, have known side effects of, you know, suicidal and homicidal ideation. You're looking at, like, what, 70% of the suicides are males now, just shooting themselves. And you think about, you know, what is it that we have been doing to our society to make us so violent when that didn't used to be the case?
Too many guns.
Increased violence in every respect. We've lost respect for human life, and that is a much bigger problem than the guns. Now, I did a podcast on the Second Amendment. I think we've got it all wrong. We've actually destroyed our sense of personal responsibility for our nation's violence, and because of that, we have a culture and unfortunately, not just the typical violence you see in game shows, but we also have just on the personal level.
My cell phone went off.
Damage that we're doing to our young boys, and they're the ones mostly responsible for the violence.
Thank you. Scott, a Republican voter from Lafayette, asked about the role of artificial intelligence. He says automated non-lethal countermeasure systems.
Did you know this was the Indiana Senate debate, DJ Dub? Or did you just come in and be like, this dude looks like he's from Indiana?
To Congress, how will you address the use of artificial intelligence in promoting safety and security in the United States? Mr. Horning?
Well, I
like to think you didn't know.
My whole life, and I've got deep concerns about the government having control of it, especially when you see, some of the characters involved are directly, CIA cutouts, like Palantir and others that are, backing both of our presidential candidates. So, what I see in AI is a lot of promise. What I also see is a lot of danger, and the solution that's being proposed here is really all about monitoring and pre-crime, which is something that actually Palantir bought that from the CIA and made a whole company out of the notion of analyzing people and see who's going to become a criminal. And I think that's a very dangerous road, because you think about how that could be made political by...
DJ Dub's like, nah, I've had enough debates. We're done with the debates for this season.
Stuff already.
Ms. McCrae.
We've watched too many of these goddamn things.
Also needs to be, need to be mindful of the mental health status of...
2 more tomorrow night. 1 on Halloween. I think we're done.
More likely to kill themselves or shoot at someone else. We also know that mental health issues they arise between age 15 to age 28 in males. We need to have a specific rules or specific...
Not exactly been good for my mental health, DJ Dub.
And making sure there's no guns in the homes of these young men, especially if they're not monitored or if there's an extra check to make sure that they're okay. If they're in the military, we've got someone to look over this. But however, on a day-to-day basis, homes with young people with these guns, it's an issue, and we need to look at it as a mental health, public health issue.
Jamie from Lafayette asked, what are your proposals for expanding access to mental health and substance abuse treatment services? Ms. McCrae?
For those of you that know me, they know you.
McCrae already said Medicare for all.
Politics because of the lack of mental health.
And she is correct.
I wanted to make mental health a priority in Washington, D.C. And when I first started, mental health was a taboo to even talk about. And I'm very excited about the fact that now everyone is talking about it. It's a question that's everywhere we go. Now we need more people trained to actually deliver the services. We need broadband in the rural areas so that they can do telehealth, for example. There's ways that we can support everyone all over the state, but we need broadband and we need more therapists out there. We have issues to solve. The 988 number is wonderful if you use it and you've got access to it. Thank you.
Mr. Horning.
Well, kind of surprising. I don't disagree with you on some of this. It's just that making it federal, I think, is a mistake. I think that, it's far better to keep this kind of thing decentralized and more localized even, because these problems are inherently local, and we need to be more aware on the local level as
but then nothing gets done about them.
DC to fix all of our problems, because the further away you make the decision-making process, the worse the efficiency is, and the more likely it is that we're going to be more corruption creeping into it. And you look at how much money is already in our government from the pharmaceutical industry. That's another big concern. We've got big problems with big pharma.
Marijuana is illegal in the state of Indiana, but legal in about 3/4 of U.S. states, including Michigan and...
One up, tip one back.
Several Indiana lawmakers have said that the state should only consider legalization if the federal government acts first to legalize cannabis. Do you suggest a change in federal or state laws? And which changes would you suppose? propose, excuse me. Mr. Horning.
Well, if what we're really talking about is trying to reduce harm from harmful drugs, that's a separate discussion. The fact is this is all unconstitutional. When we passed the
legalize it
amendment to end the first prohibition, we replaced it with nothing. Our government, neither at the federal level or the state level, ever had any authority to ban the manufacture, sale, or distribution of anything since the 21st Amendment. So, the fact that even the 18th Amendment did not prohibit the purchase and consumption of anything, people forget how this all came about under Nixon's war on drugs from all kinds of mistaken assumptions. Now, I have a farm. I'd love to grow hemp on it, but even something like a commercial product like hemp is not even viable in Indiana. We used to be a big hemp producer because of the ridiculous regulations we have on marijuana. So, I would be all for a return to the Constitution. I'm not into, illicit drugs, but if you look to see what we did with alcohol, and you make...
Oh, we can tell, dude. We can tell.
Ran out of time.
Thank you, Mr. Horning. Ms. McCrae.
The surrounding...
This dude would be so much cooler if he smoked a joint.
Marijuana use, which is... for Indiana, it just doesn't make sense to be surrounded by states that have it legal. We might as well go ahead and legalize it here. But I would definitely like an education component, because it's not free of all. It's not the most safe thing in the world either. But for our veterans and for people that are suffering from PTSD and there's other cancers and those sort of things, we have to make that medication. It can be a medical effect. Make it available here in Indiana. And it just doesn't make sense to have different states doing different things, because it's just a matter of going over the border and getting what you want. So let's make it legal, but let's also educate people about the pros and cons of using marijuana.
Yes, 30 seconds, Mr. Horning.
I'm going to use my rebuttal to say thank you. I like what you said. That's all.
Thank you. We received questions from voters about election laws and policy, including concerns about the role of money in politics. Ken, a retired CPA, musician, and songwriter from Portland, Indiana, argued that the principles of one person, one vote, and equal representation have been made a farce in the changes in campaign finance that resulted from the Supreme Court decision in Citizens United, which held that the political spending is a form of protected speech and let corporations and unions spend unlimited amounts of money in campaigns. Ken argues that the American people now...
The cat's stuck. I'm going to have to get him.
...by special interest, and he wants to know if you would support a constitutional amendment that would reduce the role of money in politics. What is your stance on Citizens United, and would you support a constitutional amendment to reduce the role of money in politics? Ms. McCrae?
Absolutely. Citizens United should be repealed. Sit back, put a nail in that coffin, because we see what has happened with politics. Millions and millions of dollars are going into campaigns. And quite frankly, there are so many politicians that I also am worried that they're being bought and sold before they even get to Congress. I think that was a mistake. We need to have a cap on how much we spend on campaigns. It should be publicly funded. That would be great, so that
you're here.
Has an equal chance and equal opportunity to run for office. That would be important. It is out of hand, and it should be repealed at all costs. It is the root of a lot of the issues we're seeing, because politicians now are not paying attention to their constituents. They're paying attention more to the big corporations that are funding their campaign. So yes, get rid of Citizens United.
Mr. Horning.
Well, you're kind of singing my song about corruption, but the fact is we should be looking more deeply than this. Starting in 1886, when we granted human rights to corporations, that's what really necessitated the rise of unions and other, the more power we give to corporations, which are inherently, after all, they're government entities. They're created by government charter, regulated by government laws, and then that power that they get, that humans can't get, like immortality and special deals, special tax breaks, we can't fight against that as humans, and that's become an incredible problem. And in fact, I would like more time on this one, because this particular issue is killing us. The fact that we have allowed money to determine who our government actually is. I'm the only one who can really talk about corruption with a straight face, because I've chosen to be in a party that doesn't get any public money. We're not allowed to have primary elections. We're not allowed to have precinct committeemen. We're kept out of that whole system, and only voters can fix that by voting against the two-party system.
And I'd also like to add
30 seconds for rebuttal, please, Ms. McCray.
Yes, I also like to say that that's a choice as well. Our campaign is also not taking corporate dollars either. It's a choice that we made. We're a grassroots campaign, and we're on the same page here as far as not accepting large donations or accepting lobbyists' money or those sort of things. So I'll be able to go to Washington, D.C., not straitjacketed by any type of promises I've made to corporations.
I'm not going to put her in a straitjacket.
Recently controversial.
You heard it here first.
Given the difference between the Electoral College results and the national popular vote. Loretta, a Democrat from Whitting, Indiana, wants to know if you would support a constitutional amendment abolishing the Electoral College and instituting a new national popular vote for president.
What about the libertarian sucks and thinks we still have it?
That even as late as the 14th Amendment, there was a strong punishment for states that did not allow people to vote for the electors directly. We were supposed to vote for the electors who choose our president. Does anybody out there know that? Or the fact that our Constitution has been so squashed and we've lost the original concept behind the Constitution, which frankly in some respects was to protect us against people who are like crazy presidential candidates who I'm not going to go any further than that. But the point is, the Electoral College was and is a very good idea if we would actually read how it was supposed to work and understand how we were supposed to be able to vote for these people.
Ms. McCray.
Wasn't expecting that answer.
The Electoral College has its positives, and of course it has its negatives. One of the things that we could do, and that's not written in our Constitution, is that we could get rid of the delegates win and take all the delegates. Not all states have this, so this winner takes all of the delegates for those states. That's something we can resolve. There's some states that don't have this. If we make it proportional to the delegates, proportional to the votes, we can resolve some of these issues.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Or just make it a national popular vote.
Your final pitch to voters. For this question, I'll ask you to respond in 60 seconds. Several Hoosier voters submitted questions about party polarization in Congress. Daniel, an independent from Georgetown, asks, how can we deal with the low approval ratings and lack of bipartisanship in Congress? While Jamie wanted to know if you can provide an example of a policy issue where you believe there's the potential for bipartisan, tripartisan agreement, and how would you work to achieve consensus and a solution? Ms. McCray, we'll hear first from you.
I think that one policy issue that we can find agreement on, or we should find agreement on, is in our school systems, making sure that it stays a public system, making sure that we support it. That's something we should.
Oh, that court hearing was amazing.
Also be able to agree on raising the minimum wage, because right now you cannot live on $7.25 a year. I mean, a day, an hour. I'm sorry. So we can agree on that. As a nation, we know how much it costs to live.
You finally got there.
Minimum wage to address that, and that should be definitely bipartisan.
Mr. Horney.
Well, this is my time to say vote for me and we fix it all. You know, the one thing you would get by voting for me, for sure, is that you would be saying to the people who own and control our government, which are not the people on the ballot, by the way, right now, if you vote for me, you're saying you are done with this two-party system and you want something different. If you vote for even the best Democrats and Republicans, you are voting to sustain a system that you know is tearing us apart. It's inherently divisive. It's unconstitutional. Our founders warned us against it. Nobody likes it. So if you want to end the bipartisanship, which to me is a bad word, we really should. I wish we didn't have political parties. We were warned about that too. But really, your only.
Does anybody notice it says Diana behind him?
And I'm applying for a job. I'll be the senatorial marriage counselor. I'll be the one that can stand between Democrats and Republicans, and I'm not either one of them.
Now it's time for our final question this evening. For this final question, which will act as our closing statement, each candidate has 30 seconds to respond. The question is this: Why should Hoosiers cast their votes for you to become their next U.S.
Hoosiers.
Mr. Horning, you'll be answering this question first.
What is a Hoosier?
30 seconds.
No, I'm the only one that would really give you something phenomenally different. Marble walls in Washington, D.C. would crack if a libertarian got elected to the U.S. Senate. And I think most of you understand that. You understand why. It would be an extraordinary thing. And what it would mean is it'd have nothing to do with me. It'd have nothing to do with any of the candidates. What it would mean is that you, the voter, have decided that you have had a change of heart and mind and spirit, and you want something different. And I'm certainly something different. Look up HorningForSenate.com. You can find me on Facebook and on Twitter. I'm easy to find.
Cindy Lou Hoosier.
Thank you. Ms. McCrae, you have 30 seconds.
Hoosiers need leadership that's going to
In Hoosierville.
provide us. That's what I'm committed to. People have a choice here. Do they want the choice to? Do they want the opportunity to make a choice for their own lives, decide what they want for their own bodies? Do they want to make sure that we support families and daycare and making sure we have those things that make our lives work? My opponent, my main opponent, is not here today, and he's not here because he disrespects Indiana Hoosiers and will not stand in the same place and support or talk about his systems or what he's for, and I'm against that.
Thank you. Candidates, on behalf of the Indiana Debate Commission, thank you for participating in tonight's debate. The Commission's a non-profit organization that depends on voters and volunteers, the media outlets across the state, to make these events possible. The Commission also wants to thank our
That was it. That was the Indiana Senate debate.
Association, the Indiana State Bar Association.
That didn't feature the person who's going to win the Indiana Senate race.
Finally, thanks to all of you in watching and listening, and our audience of voters for submitting your questions. Now it's time to make your choice and cast your vote in this year's election. For the Indiana Debate Commission.
She was really nervous at the start. I'm glad she settled down.
I'm glad you mentioned Jim Banks. I wanted to.
I love the Libertarian starts running. Yeah, the Republican didn't show up. It is Representative Jim Cray, a batshit crazy MAGA, and he's almost certainly going to win the Senate seat. So there you go. Oh, I said we were done with debates. I forgot. There is another debate coming on at 8 o'clock. I'm going to leave it to the chat. I'm kind of interested. I have a curiosity about it. If you guys say so, we will watch it. Former Representative George Santos is going to be debating Cenk Uygur on TYT. I have no clue what that is on the TV. Something's casting a shadow and I don't know what it is. It's been driving me crazy. I don't know where the shadow is coming from though. Oh, that's my microphone arm. I see. Now it makes sense. Okay. So that's coming up in like 4 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is we usually come on at the top of the hour. So we're gonna reset the opening. We're gonna come on because Justin's gonna go take a pee-pee. We'll fast forward a little bit though. That way it hits like right at 8 o'clock. Yeah, perfect.
is the Troll Patrol, live with JustinFREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol, live. It's a freaking Tuesday. We just watched the Indiana Senate debate. Thanks to the chat, we're going to be watching the George Santos Cenk Uygur debate here in just like a minute or two. We're getting ready to get this started. Before we do that, let me go ahead and hit you with the meme of the day. Tony Hinchcliffe headlining at the Comedy Mothership. Actual picture of the man. Actual picture of Tony Hinchcliffe at Joe Rogan's Comedy Mothership. Of course, that's the dude that said there was a floating island of garbage in the ocean. It's known as Puerto Rico at the Trump rally that took place over the weekend. Get ready. Apparently, George Santos taking the MAGA side still after they threw him under the bus. What in the hell is that picture of Cenk? What is the face he's making? Was that taken right after Cenk lost his congressional race? He looks very butthurt. It's the chud face. Who wants to over under? How long is it going to take for Anna Kasparian to ink a deal with Daily Wire? M Lord, good evening. Mox, good evening. Toss Rick Scott. Oh, because of the Puerto Rican comments. Yeah. It may cost Trump as well. Latinos is one of the groups that he really needs to win over. Curiouser, good evening. I saw she's on the screen, but not in the... Oh, the hello you all. It didn't pop up in my chat over here. Good evening, welcome in. What is taking them so long to get to the George Santos debate? What happened to Primus? No, I've not heard anything. That's why she's in here. She's got news for me. The drone, really? Huh. Almost said Jason Alexander, but that's George. It's it's something Alexander. Well, they've had a couple different drummers, but I thought they were back to the original drummer, who was also the drummer for Pussifer. Or some shit like that. I don't know. It's a big gangbang of musicians. Herb Alexander. For some reason, that doesn't sound right. Okay, here we go.
Perks, we've been doing a series of debates against conservatives on the issue of Donald Trump and whether he should be elected or not. Joining us now is George Anthony DeValder Santos. As I
use the full name.
Probably going to be our last one here as the days are winding down for the election here. George, welcome.
Hi, Cenk. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
and thank you for saying my whole name, and you got it all right. So that's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start. Okay, so normally I ask people to start with, why are you voting for Trump? In this case, I'll be a little bit more specific. Do you sympathize with him more because he's a pathological liar or because he's a convicted criminal?
Look, let's be real here, Cenk. I sympathize with Donald Trump because he's efficient. Because under his presidency, we didn't have record inflation. We didn't have a record breach of the sovereignty of the southern border of the United States. We had no chaos in the Middle East. Matter of fact, we brokered peace in the Middle East. Was it perfect?
That's not true at all. None of that is true.
More to include Palestine. But again, nothing is perfect, right? Nobody can say everyone is perfect. So if you want to start off with catty calls and you want to put your claws out, you can. That's fine. But that's the reason I support.
I love this guy.
Okay, so let's break a bunch of those down. So Donald Trump assassinated the top Iranian general. He moved our embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. These were both inflammatory acts.
When you say assassinated, I'm sorry, when you say assassinated, who are you referring to?
Soleimani.
So you think it was a bad thing that President Trump's under President Trump's command, the military took out a deadly terrorist like Soleimani?
Okay.
Or do you think it was an astute and austere scholar like the New York Times?
First of all, the New York Times never called him an astute scholar. Second of all,
yes, they did.
No, okay, whatever. So listen, brother, I never know what to believe with you. So in terms of Soleimani, you're doing the same BS trick that they did with Iraq, okay? Oh, Saddam Hussein's a bad guy. Saddam Hussein's a terrorist. Saddam Hussein is this.
Oh no, I disagree.
So hold on. Let me finish.
I didn't support
Hold on, George. Every conversation and debate we've had, we go back and forth, and it's been perfectly civil. So hold on. Let's both make our points.
You're right. You're right. That's fair.
All right. So now, Soleimani might have been a bad guy, like Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. That doesn't mean you agitate for a giant war in the Middle East. So that's exactly killing Soleimani. First of all, an assassination is not a value judgment, right or wrong. And you could argue we assassinated Osama bin Laden, and that was a good thing. He had it coming. But that,
I agree.
Okay, that was a guy who actually attacked us. Iran has not attacked us. We went and killed him. Why did we kill him? On behalf of Israel. Why did we move our embassy? On behalf of Sheldon Adelson, because Trump even admits that he moved it because of a donor. And then the Abraham Accords, you say, I wish the Palestinians would have been included. No, Israel would never allow that. Israel doesn't want to end the occupation. Their cabinet was very clear. They just voted and said, we're never giving the Palestinians a state. So Donald Trump egged on the Palestinians and the Arabs and the Muslims and agitated. The war just happened to happen after he got out of office, after all of his agitations. So don't pretend that he's for peace. Right now he says that Israel should attack Iran more and bomb their nuclear facilities, which would endanger us way more.
Looking back on it now, it really does seem like after Biden came to office, Israel was trying to poke the bear.
Back to a point you just made here. Yes, I agree with you on Iraq. I think George W. Bush is a war criminal. I've said this very many times. I think Iraq was a disgrace. It was all based on a lie. Thousands of men and women who serve in our armed forces died in vain over a war that was frivolous and based on falsities. There were no nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction uncovered in Iraq till this day. On the subject matter Iran, I do want to push back on you on the fact that Iran attacked the United States indirectly through proxies such as Hamas, the Houthis, and Hezbollah. So to say
they
that
didn't attack America. Israel is not the 51st state. They didn't attack. They attacked Israel.
I'm not saying Israel, but they've attacked our ships in the Middle East. They have captured vessels of carry American flags in the Middle East. So let's not pretend like these things aren't happening. Iran wishes nothing but death on Americans. I don't think this is a controversial take.
Yeah,
so, it's not propaganda when you see the translations coming out of Iran in Farsi for you to see it, them saying death to America.
Why do you think they're saying that, George?
I'm not making this up.
No, George, I know that this is a rare thing you're not making up. I know that they're saying that, but do you think they just hate us randomly, just totally randomly? Or is it because we're supporting Israel and the occupation of the Palestinians for 57 straight years?
That's not the only reason.
The correct answer is that we that we help our ally get to peace so they have a safe haven as a Jewish state in Israel that we could all go to and appreciate, and that there's a Palestinian state. But instead of doing that, what Trump is doing is, no, the Iranians want to kill us all. We got to attack the Iranians. We have to kill their generals. We have to bomb them. I wish Israel would bomb them more. This is the same exact playbook that the neocons ran. And one of the top.
It was just the way he was saying Iran.
There's a guy named Benjamin.
It did it to me.
And they're running that same exact playbook right now, and you and Trump are helping them, wittingly or unwittingly.
And so, hold on. And so is Dick Cheney, and his daughter now and him are great supporters of Kamala Harris. So make it make sense that you support Kamala Harris, and the largest warmongering family in the history of this.
By the way, if we do news tonight, we're going to do very little news. We're going to do Halloween specials.
Right? And
I know there's a lot of shit going on.
I want to be respectful. You can throw.
I feel like I'm letting everybody down. I'm not doing my service.
I love you. I love all.
But tomorrow night, going to do a huge ass show.
And that's okay.
We're going to cover all the news.
As far as Israel goes, you're telling me then the alternative would be to drop pallets of $400 million of cash like Obama did, or as my time.
And we're gonna do Halloween TV specials,
lifting sanctions on Iran so that Iran can
sitcom specials,
cash, and go ahead and support and sponsor war and terror.
Oh, were you here last night, Torgy, when everyone got on to me for never seeing?
So now let me give reality instead of the propaganda.
Rocky Horror.
It's not propaganda.
The news is indeed scary content.
Yeah, you didn't witness anything. So here's what happened.
Sure, I was.
You didn't witness anything.
Obama signed a peace deal with Iran to take the uranium out of Iran, and that way they could not develop any nuclear weapons. That was working.
And they didn't comply.
That's not remotely true. Now you're totally lying. They definitely complied. Our allies say they complied. The United Nations says
they complied.
The only people who lie and say they didn't comply is Israelis.
Today. Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. So
I know all the songs. I know all the references and shit. I've just never watched the whole thing.
You see them trying to start a war. Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq. So let me explain the facts to you. They complied completely. Trump got out of that deal. And that made war 10,000 times more likely. It also made the idea of them developing nuclear weapons, their ability to do that, much more likely. Because what did they do? As soon as Trump canceled.
I'm just going to throw a bunch of shit on a playlist and let it hit random. Who knows what we're going to watch tonight?
Of course they would. What did you think they were going to do? And then on the money, hold on. On the money, hold on. On the money, we blocked their funds. We basically took their money that was in American banks and Western banks, and we seized it. We did not give them our money. We originally blocked their money, and then as part of the peace deal, we said, okay, the money we kidnapped from you, we will give some of it back as long as you do this deal. Now, I think that's a nefarious move. If anybody did it to America, we'd be enraged and we'd go to war with them. But I didn't mind it because, hey, that was tough of Obama. He did do that, and he at least got the peace deal and to make sure they couldn't develop nukes. Trump, the moron, came in, ripped up the peace deal, the Mr. Anti-War. Then they brought uranium back in, started developing nuclear capabilities again. And now Israel goes, well, now that we ripped up the deal and now that they are developing again, well, that's it. We got to go back to war with them. And you seem to be helping them 100%.
Oh, look,
I haven't checked in. They are at war with him right now, aren't they?
Disingenuous. I voted on every single war resolution to retreat troops and to stop the propagating of war, not only in the Middle East.
Brother, you were in Congress for like 8 months.
You can look at it. You can say I'm a liar, have fun at that. Look at my record. It doesn't lie. My votes are on the record, and you can see it for yourself. Secondly, as far as Iran goes,
I don't even think I'm like that far off.
Sure, there's semantics there. It's not actually U.S. dollars. I'll give you all of that. The money we just unfreezed, it was specifically for aid, for medical, and all of those
Joey, good evening.
Things, not for war. The reality is, though, that during the peace deals,
because TYT's ratings are tanking.
I'm sorry. During the peace deal treaty with Obama, there were 7 whistleblowers of 6 different intelligence agencies of our allies, including our own domestic agencies.
Hey, the chat picked this, not me. I was going to do news.
That there was still uranium in Iran and that they were still enriching uranium. So they violated the treaty. You know this. It's been reported.
No.
Don't take it from me. Go with what's out there. Research. Do your research.
It's been catty from the beginning, though.
If you don't believe me, I'm a liar. Cenk is the truth teller. Just research it. Use Google. As mainstream as it gets. I'm not asking you to go on anything obscure.
George, you're talking.
Don't bing it.
I wonder which ally claimed that they were still enriching uranium. Ooh, can I guess? It was Israel. Oh, right. And then our intelligence agencies that led us into the war in Iraq, some of those, by the way, tons of them said no. They're not enriching uranium. But a couple of guys, oh, look, some neocons in the intelligence agencies said, oh, yeah, I have some evidence that I'm not going to share publicly that no one else on the planet
agrees with. Welcome in.
Oh, but trust us, we got to go to war with Iran. We think they're enriching uranium, and that's what Netanyahu tells us. Okay, can I ask you this? I asked Scott Adams last night. I'll ask you the same thing. So if Trump continues to finance Israel's aggressive wars, if he gets us into a war with Iran, are you going to say that Trump was wrong and you were wrong to support him? Because it turns out he was a warmonger.
I'm going to double down on my commitment here because I think it's clear I'm a very prolific Zionist. I support Israel, but I
thoroughly enjoyed that war show last night.
I had an opportunity to vote on when I was in.
No, not so much. They were really good.
Funding endless wars. Same reason I said I will not vote to fund the Ukrainian war. I will help and vote to fund to end the war so that we can wipe Putin out once and for all. But we need to take strict measures that are calculated and organized instead of just funding it. Like, do they need javelins, whatever they need? Do they need cluster munition? Do they need the Blackhawks?
I think she goes to the Daily Wire within the next 5 years.
Put Putin out on his ass and end the war. Enough of this endless sending. Here's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Especially if Harris wins.
Isn't really effective. Sure.
If Harris wins,
they come back.
Anna is at the Daily Wire before the next election.
Taxpayer dollars, and I don't support.
Take it to the bank.
As far as Trump being a warmonger, worse lies and fallacious statements could have never been said. Trump is the most anti-war president.
He was cute in drag,
and of yours too, Jen. It is evident and clear.
He looks better in drag.
No ounce of Donald Trump, which is pro-war, and you can't find that. You have to spin yourself into a pretzel to make that point.
So the guy who ripped up the peace deal with Iran is anti-war, okay? And the guy who just said he was going
to use the military on
that Israel
the enemy within
their nuclear facilities, which would start a much larger war. The guy who agitated for war over and over and over again, increased the number of drone strikes, killed more family members, killed more innocent civilians, all of that. No, I'm sure. By the way,
I tried to pick music that fits the whole troll persona.
Because we're spending too much American money on weapons that go to the war.
I just told you I didn't vote on the last funding to Israel before I left. I told you right before I left, I did not vote for the supplemental for Israel, even though I'm pro-Israel and I'm pro-Zionist.
And he's Jewish.
I didn't vote for it because I don't believe in war. That's the one thing you're not going to get me to agree on is war.
Okay, that is very fair. So if you voted no on that, then I give you credit for that. And by the way, also, yeah, I despise the fact that Dick Cheney is now associated with the Democratic Party.
But that's your L. And
no,
you have to defend.
I know. I hate it. I hate it. I don't do defense of indefensible people. So but I can't stand, so if you say Kamala Harris is going too much towards the neocons, I agree with you, and it really bothers me. But if you say that Donald Trump is anti-war when he has done all these steps to facilitate a war, and he says we should do the war right now, that's not an anti-war. War is not an anti-war.
Not to mention the fact that he's probably indirectly responsible for Russian invasion of Ukraine, too.
Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, today is a vote to revive the military-industrial complex with the support of Dick and Liz Cheney backing.
Was it like his stepmom was
Trump brags in every
Brazilian or something?
He gave the military-industrial complex more money than anyone has ever given them. Wow, what an anti-war, anti-military industrial complex. You know that's true. You know that's true. In every speech, he's like, oh, I gave them so much money.
Trump invested in the military and the armed forces of our country and created a whole new one because we were so behind.
Oh, he's from Brazil,
China, Russia, and some of our most dangerous geopolitical allies. No, I'm in favor of safety. I'm not in favor of engaging. There's nothing wrong with being prepared and having readiness, emergency disaster readiness, military readiness, pandemic preparedness readiness. There's nothing wrong with that, Jen. The problem is when you're deploying and you're spending billions of American taxpayer dollars to go into frivolous wars like George W. Bush did in Iraq, like President Biden is allowing the whole world to fall apart.
Hold on, I gotta let Maynard in.
He cannot lead through strength and has a very weak approach to foreign policy. That's just the facts. If you don't agree with me, that's fine.
Yeah, if Trump wins, it's going to be a disaster. His idea of diplomacy is a bigger war. Somebody's going to call us bluff, and we're going to be screwed. All right, let's move on to a different topic. So, brother, you're out, right? So you're a part of the LGBTQ community. You dress in.
Oh, I thought he was meaning out of Congress,
etc. So everybody knows that you've said that. You get it. Now they're running these ads. The number one ad that they're running now is, Kamala Harris is basically said that trans people that were detained immigrants should get sex change operation. Now, I get it.
Hank's stumbling all over his words.
I'm not in favor of that position. Now, having said that,
I agree with you.
Okay, so you agree with that. I get it. But given when he was in office, he tried to ban transgender people from the military, tried to ban them from bathrooms, given what Florida's done.
Out and out.
Republicans do, trying to pass bills all across the country against transgender folks. Does that not give you pause about supporting this party that doesn't seem to love your identity?
So I'm not transgender. I'm cisgender, as they call it, right? I dressed in drag at 18, and I did it, and I reprieved it again for charity for Tunnels to Tower and also for the International Fellowship.
Yeah, but most right-wingers don't know the difference.
Cameo earlier this year. Having said that, I am openly gay. I am married to a man. The reality is the problem we have in this country today is extremism on both ends of the political spectrum. Some people just have no limits and they just want to push it all the way to the point of what you just described Vice President Kamala Harris wants to. And some people want to go all the way to the extreme side of what Governor Ron DeSantis wants to. I think that every single American wants to meet in the middle, but I do not believe it is problematic to say boys should not be in girl sports. Biological males should not be competing against biological females. In the case in point of athlete Leah Thomas, perfectly fine to be an athlete, perfectly fine to want to compete. I think they should start leagues. If the transgender population is at a rapid growth today, as they project, I believe there should be leagues for them in their own categories.
There's no projection. There's no rapid growth.
Boy leagues, and we should start creating transgender leagues. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a non-gender conforming restroom. Just create a third restroom and you end the discussion. But the problem is about shoving ideology down the throats of Americans. I'm very moderate in this topic. I have no issue with the GOP.
Nobody shoving anything down anybody's throat.
The people of the 3rd District of New York elected me knowing I was openly gay. You can put all the semantics aside of everything else if you want to talk to it, but let's make it very clear. I was always openly gay, and nobody seemed to have a problem, and I ran in a pretty conservative part of Long Island, and people voted for me in droves because of my policy position, not because of my sexual orientation. People could give two flying bleeps. I'll bleep it there. Sorry. I almost did it. And I'm sorry to your production team.
No, it's okay. You didn't do it. So, George, they voted for you. Maybe some of them knew you were gay. Maybe some of them just wanted tax cuts. But that's fine. That's a data point on your side. The Republican Party ran anti-gay marriage ballot initiatives up and down the ballot in 2004 in order to get people who hate gay individuals out to the polls so that George Bush can beat John Kerry. The Republican Party has been against gay rights my entire lifetime. And Donald Trump specifically tried to ban transgender people from the military who love this country, who wanted to sign up and risk their lives and fight for us. And he said,
fuck this. That's enough of them. Let's check in with somebody a lot better, a lot more hype from my chat for this guy, I'm sure. Let's hear from Sean Fain.
Trump's NAFTA 2.0 is up for renegotiation in 2026. Kamala Harris has publicly committed that as president, she will fight to fix Trump's failed NAFTA to protect American workers in our communities. And let's talk about auto jobs in this country, because these two candidates have a proven track record in that respect. Under the Biden-Harris administration, we have seen a boom in U.S. manufacturing, thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act and other legislation. When Donald Trump was president, manufacturing was declining, even before COVID hit. He said he was going to bring the jobs back. But Kamala Harris's administration is actually doing it. Look at Lordstown, Ohio. Trump left those workers behind at General Motors' Lordstown assembly plant. He said, don't sell your house, and he did nothing. The Biden-Harris administration actually invested in a battery plant in Lordstown. And now those workers are making EV batteries under our national agreement. They were able to return home, making good union wages. People are afraid, that electric vehicles are going to kill jobs. But we're seeing more investment now than we've seen at any point in my lifetime. Auto and auto parts jobs are at their highest level in nearly 20 years. We have to fight for those jobs to be good jobs. And we need someone who will stand with us in that fight. So how about when the chips are down and our members are on the picket line? Last year during our strike, Donald Trump held a fake rally at a non-union auto shop and blamed our union while we were in a fight for our lives. Rather than speaking out against corporate greed at the Big Three, he attacked us. He's called for members to abandon our union and stop paying dues. He blames the union for the company's problems. On the other side, President Biden became the first sitting president in U.S. history to walk a picket line, our picket line. Biden said on live national TV that record profits should mean record contracts and that we had sacrificed enough as auto workers. He had our back, and so did Kamala Harris. Back in 2019, when it wasn't a popular thing to do, when GM auto workers were on strike and Trump was president, Kamala Harris was standing on the picket line shoulder to shoulder with striking workers at GM. How about Donald Trump? When he was president in 2019, again, he said nothing as GM workers were on strike. He did nothing as the company closed plants in Warren, Michigan, in Lordstown, Ohio, in Baltimore, Maryland. In fact, he blasted our union while promising Lordstown workers they'd get their jobs back. And just last month, in a live interview with Elon Musk, Trump praised Musk for being the greatest cutter. He openly laughed about firing workers on strike, and he said, I quote, "Every one of you is gone." Kamala Harris and Joe Biden stood with us on the picket line. Governor Tim Walz stood with us on the picket line. They stood with us in our fight to reopen Belvedere. They stood with us in our fight to bring jobs back to Lordstown, Ohio. So to me, in their own words and actions, it's really simple. Donald Trump is against us. He's against our union. He's against the working class. And he's against everything we stand for. Kamala Harris is with us. In her words, in her actions, she has shown us that she's on our side. And who we elect matters, because we have some major fights ahead of us.
Tell him, Sean. Prometheus.
We have to fix our broken trade deals if we want to survive as a union.
Don, good evening.
Class. In 2026, Trump's NAFTA 2.0 is up for review. Do you want Donald Trump recommitting?
This is live right now.
That kills American jobs?
I love that Sean Fain does these live streams.
Or do you want Kamala Harris ready, willing, and able to leave a deal that doesn't work for the working class? She'll be with us in our next contract fights. When we ask that question, who's going to be there with us? In 2028, we have organized...
I do want to get to the news. I would like to watch some Halloween specials. That's what we're going to be doing tonight, but the news be doing a lot of shit, so let's try to get through it as fast as we can. There was a press conference just a few hours ago. Man by the name of Steve Bannon was released from prison.
Thank you for coming. You know, I put and I think Raheem Kassam has just put it up. The first statement I think I made from Danbury was about 4 weeks ago, September 26th. I said,
yeah, you weren't in there that long.
That you could see the collapse of this kind of phony campaign by Kamala Harris, the politics of joy, right? And she had nothing to back it up whatsoever. And you could see the beginning in the polls start to come our way. I'm very proud that the War Room,
the most sober you've ever seen him,
President Trump's back, and it particularly has been the platform for the grassroots movement to have their voice heard. And I said at that time that with the hard work of the Get Out the Vote effort and the election integrity effort, that we were on the cusp of having an
I would assume he can vote because this wasn't a felony.
Now we come to
Congress isn't a felony.
And I'm finally out of being a political prisoner by the Merrick Garland, Kamala Harris, Nancy
How does
Pelosi
somebody that
regime.
fat wear that many layers?
Okay, for standing up for my political beliefs against an illegitimate committee in the House that did not have a ranking member and did not have minority counsel. I went to a federal prison for 4 months. Now, Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland thought they were going to do two things. Number one, they were going to shut
He
down
smells like rum
and not have that as a voice for the grassroots movement of MAGA in this country. And number two, break me. Well, I think you can see today I'm far from broken. I've been empowered by my 4 months at Danbury Federal Prison. Why was it empowered? Because I was able to listen, to observe, and to learn from working class minorities.
You know, honestly, oh my God.
African American men and Hispanic men. And yes, Puerto Rican men.
He was in a federal prison.
Their lives are and what the queen of mass incarcerations, which is what they believe
Brad, good evening.
that Kamala Harris is.
I just can't imagine there's that many, you know,
gangsta
types in a federal prison.
Mass deportations of illegal alien or illegal migrants
where the polo wearing crew goes
in this country. And today, President Trump with the angel moms actually had to say, we need to set up a form of restitution to reimburse these folks. Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, as the board are, has refused to do that and continue on the mass incarcerations. Now, President Trump, and quite frankly, with the visionary leadership at the time of Jared Kushner, President Trump came with the most significant prison reform bill ever created, the First Step Act. And today, 6 years after,
once again, this is like he was in a federal prison. It's a little white collar crime.
Of which Biden in 2020
they were probably already supporters of his.
Committed to dramatically decrease the number of incarcerations in federal prisons, and nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. You know, this is criminal.
That's an insult to weasels, Winnie.
At the highest levels of BOP, Bureau of Prisons, and the Justice Department. You have particularly minorities, African Americans and Hispanic men and their families being broken, rotting in federal prisons, when the First Step Act is very clear of what's supposed to happen, and all they do is get spun and spun and spun. The system is broken.
Thank you, Lenny. The weasels accept your apology.
It's not about Danbury and not about the individual. I have many good individuals working at Danbury Federal Prison. The system of the BOP, the system of the Justice Department is broken. They have weaponized the Justice Department against a political movement, a conservative grassroots movement that's had President Trump's back, and from the dark days of February, March, and April of 2021 is on the cusp of the biggest political comeback in the history of this nation, led by grassroots people, everyday Americans, including, as we know now from the polling, and the reason I said we're on the cusp of a massive victory, she is failing to connect with minority men, Hispanic and African American men. Now, why is that? They understand what the scam is. They understand that this administration purposely...
It's going to be hilarious when these fuckers lose next week.
To drive down labor costs. The federal
oh my God, exactly this time next week.
Labor inflation by getting more unskilled workers here and putting pressure on the
we'll be getting first results back at this time next week.
The minority community understands that. They understand the scam and the con of what Kamala Harris has done.
Is everybody ready?
In addition, she has failed
be well rested
for political reasons. The reason the First Step...
I'm telling everyone to be well rested as I get ready to try to pull an all-nighter.
...is because Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland and
he has made gains according to polling. He's made gains with Latinos and black men.
For President Trump.
I mean,
and that's why they're failing to do it.
Going from 10% to 13%.
They thought
You know, that's
they
not
would
much.
shut down the war room and take our power away. The show is bigger and more powerful than it's ever been. And please, it's not a podcast. We take the live streaming
specifically men
every
torture.
day in the radio show.
Women, once again, just as repulsed by him as ever.
My brothers and sisters at CNN, when you say the podcast number is off slightly, right? It hasn't. We were the largest podcast.
I think he's toast everywhere. I think Harris wins bigger than Biden does.
And we play on radio.
That's my honest assessment. I think she wins all the blue wall states.
And Nancy Pelosi.
He pulls Arizona, Nevada, and North Carolina.
Well,
Georgia, maybe.
It empowered me. I am more empowered today, more focused today, sharper today, in better shape today than
you talk about erosion, Mox, but more people have voted for Democrats in the last 3 election cycles than ever. And people talk about walk away, and voter registrations for Democrats are at an all-time high.
And her campaign is obvious. They went from the politics of joy, and we were the first ones to call it, to darkness and night falls on America, and they pivoted hard. You know why? Her incoherent explanation for what the politics of joy is
incoherent.
Everybody. So she had to go back to the same playbook. Trump's a fascist. His followers are not deplorables; they're fascist. That they're a danger to the country. Well, you know who doesn't buy this? Working class people don't buy it.
Motherfucker, it was Trump's own chief of staff that said it.
African and Hispanic men do not buy it. Had a great opportunity at Danbury, and I want to thank the Education Department of Danbury Correctional Institution.
And apparently I saw polling that
to teach
Trump is losing white men.
And government.
That his data is way down from 2016 with white men.
The majority, particularly the later classes, were minority men. African American, Hispanic, lots of Puerto Ricans, lots of Dominican folks in the Dominican Republic. And if you had a
seriously, it's all projection.
Cover story on our populist nationalist beliefs, you can see that it talks about economics, and it talks about the way the system works.
It's ironic. Good evening.
How it's inextricably linked to the political system, and you can't understand.
They are very cute
until you understand how the economy, how the Federal Reserve.
They are adorable little things. That's why I made Lenny apologize.
Politics of the day, that much that you see on television is just professional wrestling when it comes to politics. And
hey, now, don't insult professional wrestling.
And I can report to you that these young men, most of whom are nonviolent drug offenders, that have, quite frankly, a lot of
federal prison.
These people came to this with a new awakening, and that is the awakening.
Does he think we don't know? The
system is not only broken.
This motherfucker wants people to think he was in Oz or some shit.
I saw at Danbury that we're going to move past the politics of race with an intermediate.
Isn't Danbury where they sent Martha Stewart?
Which is being forced on everybody right now. We're going to get to what is important, and that's the politics of money. And once we get to the politics of money, there's going to be some fundamental changes in this country.
Let's talk about the money you stole from your supporters.
Thank you for coming. I'm far from broken, and I appreciate you.
Socialist Aunt. This is Steve Bannon, fresh out of prison from just a couple hours ago.
Forces combine as we can combine right now. You're going to see unbelievable numbers next Tuesday. However, the Democrats are not going to
feel free to share them, Byronic. Put those in the Discord, and I'll cycle them in. I feel like I've got a really cute animal video for tonight, though. Oh, I do. It's a baby deer.
You only hire Mark Elias when you want to go to the mattresses. They understand they can't.
I'm done with Steve Bannon. I can't do it. He goes on for another
reprise of 2020, where they're going to try.
This clip is another 15 minutes, but the whole thing is an hour long. He ranted for an hour after they let him out of prison. 52 minutes to be exact. So a lot of people in my chat have been upset about the Republicans campaigning for Harris. the Dick Cheneys and the Liz Cheneys, and now I think Mike Pence is even on the train. People have criticized George W. Bush for not speaking out, but now apparently Harris has got a Bush.
Former President George W. Bush's daughter, Barbara Pierce Bush, has broken her silence on the 2024 election and confirmed that she is supporting Vice President Kamala Harris. The former first daughter, who is also the granddaughter of former President George H.W. Bush, revealed to People magazine that she campaigned in Pennsylvania for the Democratic presidential nominee as Election Day nears. It was inspiring to join friends and meet voters with the Harris Walls campaign in Pennsylvania this weekend, she exclusively told the outlet on October 29th, adding, "I'm hopeful they'll move our country forward and protect women's rights." Barbara's announcement comes weeks after Bush's office told NBC News that he and his wife, Laura Bush, do not plan on endorsing any candidate or sharing how they voted.
I love how a lot of people were on Twitter like, oh, how dare George W. Bush? And there were several reporters that were like, he's doing Harris a favor by not endorsing her.
The former first daughter also follows in her father's Vice President Dick Cheney's and his daughter, former Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney's footsteps, as they have publicly voiced their support for Harris in the 2024 election despite being Republican. Liz Cheney has even campaigned for the vice president, sharing her belief that Donald Trump poses a, quote, danger. Though Barbara had previously revealed she doesn't label herself with either party, she did headline a 2017 Planned Parenthood fundraiser where she delivered a
He looks like Callista Flockhart got smacked in the face with a frying pan.
Did also notably disagree with her husband on certain issues, including same-sex marriage and abortion. In 2001, she announced that she did not think Roe v. Wade should be overturned. 21 years later, the Supreme Court did overturn the ruling in 2022. Along with Barbara Bush and the Cheneys, Harris has also been endorsed by former Republican President Gerald Ford's daughter, Susan Ford Bales.
Ringing endorsements. And now, was this... This is the daughter. This wasn't the drunk one, right? That was Jenna. Jenna was the one that went out and partied. Man, I wish I was doing the Troll Patrol during the Bush administration. Fun times. Trump appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast, what, over the weekend? Did it drop on like Friday night or something? He has revealed that he could have Harris on, but he won't agree to Harris's terms, which were only like, you need to come here and we can only do an hour because I'm busy.
We just saw former President Trump sit down for a wide-ranging interview with podcast host Joe Rogan. But it's not looking promising that we'll see the same with Vice President Harris. Rogan posting this on X. For the record, the Harris campaign has not passed on doing the podcast. They offered a date for Tuesday, but I would have had to travel to her, and they only wanted to do an hour. I strongly feel that the best way to do it is in the studio in Austin. My sincere wish is to just have a nice conversation and get to know her as a human being. I really hope we can make it happen. Kaylee, I was struck by, in the episode with Donald Trump, that Joe Rogan's first question off of the bat, he didn't play it, but he referenced The View. When just a couple years ago, Donald
You can't play The View.
With the ladies of The View, and they said, our friend. There were kisses, there were hugs, there was love. He was running for president then, and he brought up and said, wow, the machine has turned against you. And that...
I'm just assuming she's not going back to Texas. They did was the rally this past weekend. Thank God you can't play I've missed out on playing a couple of clips because you can't play The View, because they will absolutely they will not only copyright claim you, they will take your video down. They're insane.
I felt set the scene, set the stage for a very honest, open conversation about how the world sort of went from idolizing Donald Trump, revering him as a character, a main character in the fabric of American society, to somehow, after he actually
no one idolized him,
to turning around and having him in the, to quote Joe Biden, crosshairs.
Yes, and you hit the nail on the head when we talked about Joe Rogan. I forget your exact phrasing, but it was, if you're a listener of curiosity,
Subscriber to curiosity.
Subscriber to curiosity, you listen to Joe Rogan. Kamala should have done this. She was in Texas. There's no reason not to stop by his studios. I had a mom say to me when we were at practice for our daughters,
Buggy,
I
good
feel
evening.
Like I've gotten to know Donald Trump through these podcasts. He's not the monster everyone pictures him to be. He's real, he's authentic, and these 3-hour-long episodes give people a chance to see who he is.
Oh, this is where he broke out the gold tie.
Kamala Harris would miss out on that opportunity, I do not know, but it is indeed a missed opportunity.
And it's hard, Kennedy, because in conjunction with her declining or as yet to accept the invitation, there's also been a lot
I can't play it though, Lucky.
we saw coming out of the campaign.
You don't let you do
CNN
that.
Analysts saying that those who listen to Joe Rogan need therapy when, to Kaylee's point, they simply are open to new ideas or to new information or to seeing an old person in a new light other than what the mainstream media might have you think.
And that's what they're saying they want. They're saying that they want to end the division in the country. One of the best ways to do that is through curiosity. And if more people were curious and had conversations with others they disagree with, I think the entire thing would operate better. Our families would come back together. But instead, we're ripped apart by our politics. And Joe Rogan is both consistent and uncompromising. And he wanted her to come to a studio because that's where everybody goes. It's like asking your doctor.
I mean, I feel like she should have, but if it's a scheduling thing.
No, it's actually probably best in a surgical center.
Well said.
Noted.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Bill Hemmer, the other thing is to everyone's point about the authenticity of podcasts, the relaxed nature. I wonder if that's why it would be so damaging and challenging for Kamala Harris.
I don't think it would.
That interview here,
Right.
she just faked an accent. Yo, she was born in Berkeley.
As everyone pointed out on Twitter, the woman is excellent dealing with men who think they're smarter than they actually are. She would probably do a really good job if she went on Joe Rogan's podcast.
And grew up in Canada. Her parents were Berkeley professors. I don't know where that accent came from. There's a little bit of pandering, clearly. Would she fold if it was an hour and 1 minute?
Yeah, no, because Rogan won't fold. He has his parameters. It's 3 hours. It's in my studio in Austin.
Rogan won't fold.
When everybody in this building was going, why is Trump in Texas? And yeah, he did an event for Ted Cruz. But I don't necessarily think that Ted Cruz is in danger of losing his Senate seat.
He is.
He's going to be in the studio.
Wait, whoa, they're in fantasy world.
40 million people in the next week. That's what you do, and you show up. I thought that it was a very wide-ranging conversation. It showed me the breadth of Trump, and Joe Rogan is a fascinating guy. He can talk about a lot.
Is he?
It had legs as news because you had 33 million plus people watching
And
it
counting.
on one format.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my
Why don't you guys offer Joe Rogan a contract? Get him come over to Fox News. Well, the big stories coming out of the weekend was the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden with its echoes back to the Nazi rally. And what was it, 39? 38, something like that. Here's a little clip of it.
You guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay, all right, okay, we're getting there.
That is the new viral moment from the presidential campaign trail. That joke about Puerto Rico told on stage at a Trump rally over the weekend. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. Southern Nevada's Latino community condemning the comment. News 3's Ambar Rodriguez live here in studio with more on that.
I spoke with two organizations who encourage Latinos to use their voice and vote. Both say the disrespectful racist comments made by Tony Hinchcliffe are nothing new.
We are all Puerto Ricans today.
During a Trump rally at Madison Square Garden, comedian Tony Hinchcliffe's jokes were far from funny.
It's part of the same old playbook of insulting hardworking Latinos.
While speaking at the world's most famous arena, the comedian chose to make Latinos the butt of his jokes.
Unfortunately, many years we've become used to the rhetoric.
Not just Latinos.
For us, it's important to remind our community that no matter what, even if we are undocumented, we still matter, we contribute.
Astrid Silva is the founder and executive director for Dream Big Nevada. The nonprofit helps immigrant families by providing them with services and encourages them to advocate for themselves and others in similar situations. The organization does not support a particular party.
We know that no matter what, unfortunately, things are going to continue to be said, and that's why we're asking those
What
who
straws
support
are leftists clutching at, Bagheera?
we want them to make sure that our voice is heard through them.
One of those adding his voice to this election, a former dreamer and naturalized citizen.
I think I heard a bird.
Community deserves respect, and it's time for us to cast our ballots for those people that show respect to our community and who are going to do something for my people, for these people that work so hard to make sure that our community is taken care of.
For him, being able to vote for the very first time today was his way of advocating for those who cannot.
I'm voting for my brothers and sisters, my dreamer brothers and sisters who don't have a right to vote, who their future is uncertain. I'm here to support them, and I'm here to tell them that si se puede.
Si se puede.
And I reached out to Latinos.
I think I butchered that.
Comment, and I have not heard back just yet, but I will update everyone when the group does. For now, reporting in studio, Ambar Rodriguez for News 3.
Ambar, thank
I can't believe how many groups that they needed in order to win this election that they insulted at that rally. But I mean, insulting people on racial terms, calling people terrorists, it's kind of what the right does. This happened last night on CNN. What was this dude's name? I don't even fucking know. Who is this guy?
I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is
Did
that
you just say I should die?
You
should not.
No,
Did you just say I should be killed?
No.
As you may have seen, Ryan was asked to leave the show, and we have put out a statement saying that he's not welcome back on our air.
CNN addressing Monday night's heated debate after Ryan Gerdusky's verbal assault toward journalist Mehdi Hassan. The conservative commentator booted from the broadcast, then banned from the news network.
Are you a racist, violent person inciting violence against
Ryan, that's disgusting. That is completely.
I apologize.
That
Good
is
job, CNN.
completely
Let's have first block say the Muslim guy should be blown up on TV.
I apologize.
It all went down.
Yeah, good job, CNN.
Newsnight, the hot topic, Donald Trump's campaign rally over the weekend at Madison Square Garden.
This is why yesterday's rally was disgusting.
Don't call us Nazis, but I'm going to threaten the brown guy as a terrorist and kill him.
There is a line that was crossed there, and it's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to us at this network.
In their tense showdown, Ryan referencing recent headlines surrounding the war in Gaza, drawing instant outrage on the air.
I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is
Did
that
you just say I should die?
You should not.
No,
Did you just say I should be killed?
No.
After the break, both Ryan and Mehdi left the table, but only one was asked by producers to pack up.
I want to just address what happened in the last segment. First, I want to apologize to Mehdi Hassan for what was said at this table. You'll see that Ryan is not at the table. I want to be clear.
When you didn't bring Mehdi back either?
Ask Mehdi to not come back. In fact, we really wanted him to come back and finish the show. We had a lot to talk to him about. And we really hope that he'll join us again soon.
That's Abby later sharing a message to X. The network also saying in statement, there is zero room for racism or bigotry at CNN. Ryan Gerdusky will not be welcome back at our network.
Did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did your guest just say I should be killed?
Yeah, that's what he said.
I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
Ryan, stop talking.
At least have the guts to support your racist comment.
Hang on.
Ryan hitting the network on social media, writing in part, apparently you can't go on CNN if you make a joke.
We want discussion. We want people who disagree with each other to talk to each other. There is a line here on this program, and it was crossed.
I'm all about jokes, but you know, that one was pretty dehumanizing. In a serious conversation about lives and rights, you know? Anybody Bob's Burgers fan? Anybody like Bob's Burgers? Are you familiar with the character by the name of Jimmy Pesto? Jimmy Pesto going away.
Any moment now, former Hollywood actor accused in the January 6 riots will be sentenced in Washington. Jay Johnson, who appeared in shows like Bob's Burgers and Arrested Development and allegedly shoved police who were protecting the Capitol that day, with the
Of
stolen
course it's
sheep.
Jimmy Pesto.
He faces 18 months in felony charges and is requesting leniency in part due to his star status. You ever heard of it? Okay. Federal trial attorney and legal analyst Robin Nunn.
They're laughing at him.
Talk more about this. Robin, help me understand this request for leniency. I just looked around the studio. I got blank faces from guys who work in media. No one seems to know who this dude is. He believes the government is making an example of him, and since he's a star, he shouldn't be sentenced, or he should be sentenced with some lenience.
Yeah, that is exactly what is before us. There was a pretty lengthy briefing filed by his attorney in which the government responded. And his sort of position is that he is facing these 18 months because of his celebrity status. And that is the only reason why they're going after him. The charges he faces are obviously interference with law enforcement, disorderly conduct. He took a shield and held it up and, kind of proceeded to allow attackers to go into the Capitol grounds. But he is now arguing that he should receive leniency because he is obviously pled guilty and is.
The health inspector is exactly who Sam is in real life. Come on.
Robin just said, Jay Johnson, the only Jay Johnson I know is the former Secretary of Homeland Security. So he's not, and clearly not him. So he's not.
Jimmy Pesto is too good of a character.
In Washington today.
You can't not have a foil for Bob.
Audio.
So I guess they could have had somebody else move into the restaurant or something.
With President Biden. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think that the Biden-Hur audio release situation is pretty compelling. This is a constitutional argument. It really goes to the meat of executive privilege versus congressional oversight. Obviously, as we know, Biden has agreed to release a transcript between him and Special Counsel Hur's interview, but he has invoked executive privilege to withhold the actual audio recording. So executive privilege is obviously a primary legal shield for holding sensitive communications, but congressional oversight is really broad. They have investigatory powers that are unlimited. So they filed a complaint in D.C. and they're really
Hugo, that's the name.
Whether executive privilege can protect this information from their arms.
All right. I got to take a little break real fast. When we come back, we're going to be doing ballot box. We're going to be in the crime section. Got a couple different ballot boxes stories, a shootout in Atlanta, and I got video of two cops colliding with each other. And then after that, we're going to do Halloween TV specials. All that and a lot freaking more on the other side of the break. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN.
All we're establishing is this guy's wicked, sick aesthetic.
Not high enough for this shit.
I guess I gotta thank Matt Walsh for introducing me to JustinFREAKIN.
Hey there, y'all. We're about to get stupid, locked into what that news be doing. Fu Manchu and a slick bandana, colder than ice, smoother than Santana. Audio, video, chat and calls. Right-wing nut jobs haunt the halls. What you wanna watch? Hey, what you think? And there's only one choice. It's JustinFREAKIN.
The guy's, he's a formidable voice in the culture.
Light one up and tip one back. It's a right to be high. Let's grab a snack. It's fucking news, quick panic attack, and play your cards right and get a titty slap. Jump in Discords, have some fun. The man will talk to everyone. Get high and try to debate. When shit pops up, chat thinks it's great. What do you think you're doing? Join the troll patrol. Wherever discourse is brewing, he gives it that southern drawl.
So let's go ahead and bring in Justin. Hey Justin, how's it going, brother?
First of all, I want to say you're poser South. I'm in Alabama. I'm the real South.
Okay, all right. So why don't you tell us what it takes to be a man?
Well, I don't know. I'm in Alabama and I'll fuck a man in a dress. Why won't you fuck a man in a dress? Are you that insecure that you won't fuck a man in a dress?
That's fantastic. So you're okay with that, right?
Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Good.
Right-wingers are morons.
Light one hit and tip one back. One more clip before we hit the set. Set an alert when that shit goes live. Social fucking support and hit subscribe. Light one up and take a hit. He does no harm, but it takes no shit. He's the last one standing when the ship is sinking. Let's take another rip for JustinFREAKIN.
Light one up, tip one back. I'm JustinFREAKIN.
Not high enough for this shit.
We live in turbulent times. The media is full of deception, conspiracy theories, and fake news. Now, more than ever, it is important to ensure you're getting information from a source that's freaking reliable.
I'm Justin Mullins, and this is the Freakin' News.
Get a breaking or interesting story with a humorous twist in about a minute weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, and more.
I almost made it before the end of the break. Hey, welcome back. Let the banjo rip, indeed. Sorry about that. I brought a Smokey in with me. Hey, buddy, you want to come over and say hi? Smokey is home anywhere. Smokey does not care. You put Smokey anywhere, he's just going to be happy as he can be. Socks took a little bit. Maynard was... Apparently he liked to sit on top of the washing machine. That was his spot until I got here. So he was on top of the washing machine when I came in on Saturday night. I tried to pet him. I held my hand out. He hissed at me the whole time, but then he put his head up. I kind of petted the top of his head. He's like... And he bit the shit out of me and he drew blood. But ever since then, he's been really cuddly, he's been really loving, and he absolutely missed me. So... Damn cat. And then Socks... I think Socks has anxiety issues or something, but he seems to be doing well now. And he really likes the spot out there in the living room he's picked out. I have a hard time getting him to come in here and hang out with me. Alright, so we're transitioning from politics to typical cat indeed. Transitioning from politics to crime stories. But we're at the intersection of the two. I guess I could have said the same thing when I did Steve Bannon getting out of jail, couldn't I have? And fucking Jimmy Pesto going to jail.
Look closely at this. Police want to know who is behind the wheel of that car for setting fire to ballot boxes. They believe the driver of that car is tied to at least 2 incidents at ballot boxes in Portland, Oregon and Vancouver, Washington. Let's go to CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Skaga. Thank you so much for joining us on the stream. You just spoke to police. What did you learn from them?
Reed, good to be with you. These incidents have been tied to that dark
He's got really nice hair.
sedan you see in surveillance images there. It shows the car pulling over at a Dropbox location in Portland, Oregon, moments before the fire began. And security personnel in nearby Vancouver, Washington, found that ballot box smoking in the early hours of Monday, alerting police. Now, the fire suppression...
Now, remember, the one that we heard about in Arizona, that wasn't even politically motivated. That dude just wanted to go to jail. He just needed a meal or he needed some kind of health service. And I felt really sorry for that dude. These seem to be more politically motivated.
System inside that Dropbox failed. That's why the flames were not immediately extinguished. Hundreds of ballots there destroyed. But in Portland, Oregon, where a similar incident did happen, that fire suppression system worked, so only 3 ballots were damaged there, and officials have already tracked down those voters. But the suspect still at large, and complicating this investigation, there was no front license plate on the vehicle, and police say the suspect's car had an unknown rear plate.
Maybe on purpose. Okay, so Nicole, razor-thin margins, we know this. Every vote counts, especially this election cycle. You just spoke with the auditor as well. What's the fate of the votes that were burned or damaged?
Yeah, the county auditor in Clark County, that's the home of Vancouver, Washington, tells me that, again, hundreds of ballots damaged. They won't have an exact number until later today. Officials are actually waiting for some of those ballots to dry after the fire was extinguished before they can get that exact number. Here's what to know, though. Those who dropped ballots in that drop box in Vancouver's Salmon Creek have been advised to check their ballot status online. They can do that at votewa.gov, and voters impacted can contact
New name. Good evening.
office or submit a request online at the same website for a new ballot. Now, meanwhile, Reed, we should point out, police say they have stepped up patrols around these ballot boxes, and officials in Clark County say they'll also assign ballot box observers to watch their 23 ballot drop boxes countywide there around the clock, 24/7, up until Election Day. The county will also assign election officials to pick up ballots at drop boxes more frequently.
All right, so the Department of Homeland Security is now warning that so-called threat actors are likely to leverage claims of election fraud to drive violence before and after Election Day. It's almost crazy to think we're even talking about these things. But what can you tell us about these warnings?
Reed, that's right. And the bulletin was published just yesterday by DHS's Office of Intelligence and Analysis. It warned that some are calling for violence in online forums associated with domestic violent extremists. This as a response to election fraud narratives. Those threats are primarily targeting election officials.
Leftist. Good evening.
And federal investigators assess that a contested or a close election or even unforeseen events
this week is going to be crazy.
Counting any technological or administrative errors could heighten the threat environment here in the U.S. DHS warning that some individuals online are now also calling for the sabotage of ballot drop boxes, circulating their methods on these online forums. Now, this internal bulletin has been distributed to law enforcement nationwide, and it's part of the reason we're seeing an increase in police presence around voting locations and those drop boxes, not only in Washington state and in Oregon, but nationwide. Reed.
That's why your Homeland Security and Justice beat as a reporter is so vital to our organization. Nicole, thank you so much for.
I'm not high enough for this. Don't redeem it, though, because I have to walk outside. Not the only ballot box fuckery going on in this country. Let's go down to Miami-Dade County.
And developing right now, video has surfaced of ballots being found in the road in Miami-Dade County. Local 10's Christina Vasquez has been working this mystery. She's live in Miami with what she has found out. All eyes on this one, Christina.
You have that exactly right. We are talking about ballots falling off the back of a truck. Take a look at this video, and now we know this has been verified. So Miami-Dade County Elections Department confirms what you are seeing caught on camera right there. So according to them, a worker forgot to lock the back of a truck, and out fell one sealed bin, and you see it in the video there, and one sealed bag falling out of that truck containing ballots from early voting. Now,
Libertad, good evening.
Department, this was observed in real time, and you have the Good Samaritans that you see there, these individuals that saw it, and in their words, did the right thing. They collected that sealed box of ballots and the sealed bag of ballots and turned them into a local police department. The Elections Department since says upon arrival that the election staff verified that all of the seals are intact. And actually, if you were able to listen to the audio of that video, you hear the person actually show and demonstrate and say that it's a sealed box and a sealed bag. They say nothing was tampered with or damaged, and that once at election headquarters, all items were accounted for and all seals were verified. Back out live, the Elections Department says even though that this
oh yeah, they're going to use these examples as like, oh, we can't trust mail-in ballots.
And it was, in their words, unintentional. This worker, again, forgetting to lock the back of the truck, that they do take these things seriously, and therefore that employee, they say, was terminated. We have asked the supervisor of elections for an on-camera interview, along with the Miami-Dade Mayor's office and Miami-Dade Police Department, to address this incident. As soon as we hear back, we'll bring it to you. Reporting live for you, I'm Christina Vasquez, Local 10 News.
All right, Christina.
Oh yeah, and Bannon's back on the case. Let's go to Atlanta, where there was a shooting and a standoff, I do believe, at a Wyatt Regency or something like that. I feel like it was an upscale hotel.
To follow breaking news tonight out of Midtown, where at least one officer is hurt and a man is now in custody hours after police say he barricaded himself inside of a room at the Four Seasons.
Four Seasons.
Midtown.
I'm sorry.
Video of the alleged suspect as authorities took him out of the hotel. We understand he may have been in a condo there and into an ambulance headed for Grady Hospital.
Atlanta police said that he was on the 33rd floor of the Four Seasons, and we're told that this all started as a mental health crisis call just after 10 a.m., but it turned into a shootout with the suspect allegedly firing at least 3 different weapons. And at this very moment, folks,
this time is the hotel.
Put together the
he picked the right one
from this chaos that unfolded.
We have live team coverage tonight with 11 Live's Cody Alcorn and Teresa Bowles out there on the scene. Grace King standing by at Grady Hospital. But we begin tonight with Cody Alcorn. Cody, you have been out there for hours learning all sorts of information as this unfolded. And now again, that we have learned more information from Atlanta police, are continuing to learn new details.
That's right, Jennifer and Ron. We know an Atlanta police officer was hurt along with this suspect. They're both at Grady Hospital right now. Unclear if they were shot or exactly how they were hurt. Sources are telling me that Mr. Berger did live in the residence side of the Four Seasons on the 33rd floor, where this all started in his
Mr. Berger. His name is Mr. Berger. Is his first name Bob?
Into some confrontation with the staff here, who they do round the clock. I mean, it's like living in a hotel, so they're very aware of their clients here who live here. Now, the altercation, we don't know what sparked that, but at some point he retreated to his condo, had a gun, and then once SWAT got here, they understood he had multiple weapons.
As an update, I've got to keep the microphone off because Smokey's like hopping all over my goddamn desk. I would like to let you guys know that Thursday night, after we watched the debate in which I discovered Katrina Phallic Wang, the woman running for Congress in Utah, I cut that segment out and put it on YouTube and TikTok and everything. And I would like you to know that while I was doing that video, her name is Katrina Phallic Wang. Her name was Katrina Phallic Wang. Oh, I didn't know it would pop up over there. Utah 4th Congressional District.
Everyone is frustrated.
Katrina Phallic Wang.
Buy a home, and
her name is Katrina Phallic Wang. A redundant last name, but also kind of ironic, because if I was just judging this lady by her haircut, I would say she doesn't mess with phallic wangs. I just happened to have the I regret saying that at that exact point in my template, because the last video I had made was me talking about how I hated when police crashes or when police chases ended with the suspect just giving up and then I watched somebody die. So I just left it in there because I thought it went perfectly. Katrina Phallic Wang. I would like to see her have a debate with Hung Cow.
my name is Katrina Phallic Wang. I am running for Congress, and I own 5 cats.
I will have you know. Well, it's funny you should mention that, Abattoir, because I sent Katrina a message. I said, hey, Katrina and staff, I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm a political streamer, and I made a video where I'm very focused on your name. I just wanted to say I didn't mean anything by it, and after looking at your social media, I actually adore you and would totally vote for you if I was in Utah's 4th Congressional District. I followed you on Instagram. Smokey, you're really fucking bothering me. Seriously. I said, for context, I'm an edgy comedian shock jock type, and I do a political show where I get pretty wonky and deep into the issues, but with a sophomoric sense of humor. So I'm very niche, and we have we've watched one of every Senate debate this cycle, and many of the competitive congressional races. Your race wasn't on my radar because it wasn't in the Cook competitive list, but I saw it live last night. We dropped in. The reaction video was me realizing what your name is, but judging by your ads, I loved the duck one. You seem to have a good sense of humor, but I wanted to reach out and let you know that you have the support of me and my small but passionate community. Katrina messaged back, oh my God, I love it. You don't grow up with a name like Phallic Wang and not know how to take a joke. It's actually one of the reasons I ran, and I was hoping I would get the attention of people like you, so thanks. I'm glad you got that. I like to be edgy and ridiculous and make dick jokes, but also it's just a cover for someone who really cares about our country and is passionate about creating a better future for our kids. I'm actually loving how many times I've made the news people say Phallic Wang with a straight face. So yes, Smokey being needy at an inconvenient time, which is pretty on brand for him, to be honest with you. But now, this is her official campaign sign. Katrina Phallic Wang, not another dick in Congress. I'll show you the ad that cracked me up. She's got one where she's talking to a duck. Made me very happy. Warlord Katrina Phallic Wang.
This is me, Katrina Phallic Wang. Will you vote for me for Congress? I'm here to bring real Utah values to Washington, D.C. Yeah, I don't think we're being represented as the caring, authentic, compassionate, and fair people that Utahns are. Yeah, I don't think, are we being represented that way?
No.
I don't think so. That's what I'm here to do. I'm going to represent all of us in DC. Thank you. Thank you for your vote.
God, I wish she could. I love her. This woman is amazing. I'm kind of sorry I made fun of her name, but also like she seemed like she was into it, so I'm hyper focused on people's names. I mean, my name is JustinFREAKIN after all. I'm going to save this one for tomorrow. This is wild video. I've already seen it. This is the kind of thing I totally watch, but got a lot of other implications to it that I don't want to get into tonight. So let's try to get through these real fast, shall we? We're going to Cleveland, where some vehicles have been pulled out of the Cuyahoga River, apparently connected to a missing teen.
This is News 5 at 5.
All day, our News 5 team has been near the Cuyahoga River, where authorities were searching for vehicles connected to the disappearance of 16-year-old Keyshawn Williams. He has been missing since June of last year, last seen at a house party in the city of Cleveland. Investigators believe the teenager walked away from the party and got into a dark-colored SUV with a group of teenagers. News 5 has been covering this story extensively for more than a year.
Okay. Are there other teenagers missing? Who was in the vehicle? Do they know anything? And why is she so serious?
Including pleas for answers from Keyshawn's family.
Today, 2 vehicles have been pulled from the water. News 5 anchor Tracy Carlos.
Well, I guess it is a serious story.
All day watching this unfold. What have you seen and learned?
Well, Katie and Damon, dozens of law enforcement officers spent most of the day here looking for clues that could be connected to the disappearance of Keyshawn Williams. For more than a year, police, family, friends, and the community have been searching for Keyshawn Williams. James Box is among those who have spent time searching for the teenager who vanished more than a year ago.
We searched the Fleet and Broadway area. Everywhere they said there was a sighting of him, we've been there.
Sources tell me leads led local, state, and federal law enforcement officers to focus on the Cuyahoga River. Divers searching for 2 vehicles police believe could be connected to the disappearance of Keyshawn Williams.
They're getting some information from somewhere, just somebody pointing them in this direction.
Late this morning, divers located the first vehicle. It appears to be a dark-colored Jeep. Then shortly after noon, a second vehicle was recovered. Emergency workers
Wait a minute, how do you just have vehicles in the river like nobody reported them missing? Nobody was like, hey, my vehicle went into the river. This is a wild story here.
Struggled to get the vehicles open using sledgehammers and axes to get inside. So far, we don't know what they found or if these vehicles hold the key to unlocking the disappearance of the 15-year-old. His mother says he went to a house party and never came home. She told me shortly after he disappeared last June that she would never give up hope.
We're looking for you, Keyshawn. We're searching for you every day.
And that's what law enforcement did today, hoping to find any leads leading to Keyshawn.
If this was your loved one, you would want somebody to share that information. So if you got any information, please call the police and let them know.
And right now there is a $27,000, more than a $27,000 reward being offered for information that leads police to Keyshawn. Live in Cleveland, Tracy Carlos, News 5.
Tracy, thank you.
I've got more questions. How... There's so much that, like, we don't know. It doesn't make sense. I saved this one for last. This one should be a feel-good story for you guys, at least. Probably not a feel-good story for most people, but you guys will love it. Here's 2 cops crashing into each other.
Police officers in Buena Park crashed into each other, as you saw right there. It happened around 9:20 last night in Anaheim when the officers were responding to another officer who needed help. That officer was struggling with a pursuit suspect who was eventually taken into custody. Meanwhile, the officers in the crash were okay. They were taken to the hospital to be evaluated and have returned to work.
Hello, I'm Mark.
Hey, Mark Brown.
Police officers in Buena Park crashed.
Like, seeing what they did just there and then seeing the damage it caused is wild. I wouldn't have thought it would have tore that car up that much.
Police officers in Buena Park crashed into each other, as you saw right there. It happened around 9:20 last night in Anaheim when the officers were responding to another officer who needed...
One more time.
Police officers in Buena Park crashed into each other, as you saw right there. It happened around 9:20 last night in Anaheim when the officers were responding to another...
How do you do that shit?
Police officers in Buena Park...
Okay, where was this guy turning to? Where was he going in the road? Why didn't the other dude slow down? All of it. None of this makes sense.
Police
Idiots.
officers in Buena Park crashed into each other, as you saw right there. It happened around...
It has to be the dude telling, right? It has to be the one from behind. But also, like, this, I don't know why he's turning like that.
Police officers in Buena Park.
None of it makes any sense. Usually new name. But the guy in front is a cop. Fair enough. Oh, fuck you guys. Damn it, Maynard. That was really loud. I'm just like, fuck everybody in my chat. That's how you gain viewers. Fuck all you guys. Oh, shit. I wish it had noises. If the deer was making little deer baby noises, I'd be so happy. But there's a musical song. There's no baby deer noises, unfortunately. You're always growing up so fast. Look at it. Oh, a fawn. No, wait a minute. I thought it's a doe. Doe, a deer. A female deer. See, that's not a fawn. No, it's not a doe. It's a fawn. Okay. Hold on. I've got socks out here throwing a fit. One came in, two came out. Two came out. Two went out. It's always like a cat exchange. I'll get a different cat. Other cats will go out. He's eating, or I'd grab him and pull him up here. Well, it's cute. I don't care what it is. If you're watching on YouTube or listening or watching the podcast, we're going to say goodbye to you. If you're on Twitch, we're going to watch some Halloween specials because it's Halloween week and I want to do it. So go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol Live. We got two debates, the main debate and the main Senate debate and the Connecticut Senate debate. Connecticut and Maine tomorrow night. Connecticut and Maine tomorrow night. Light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol Live. Oh, abattoir. Why you got to pull that shit? Calling it venison. Make people sad in here.